What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Passive Tree podcast dedicated to talk about life, Path of Exile 2, and everything in between. Today on episode 26, we are joined by a fellow ARPG content creator, streamer. It's none other than Scorpius. Welcome on, and how the heck are you doing, my friend?
Hello. Bro, it's an honor being here. I'm doing amazing. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited for today, man. I was looking forward to it.
Me too, dude. Yeah, me too. I just came to learn about your content recently. I was actually just like, and this is a glaze to Twitch, just scrolling through
Hmm.
Twitch and jumped into your channel, and I saw that you had just started hardcore solo self-found, and so that's what brought me in there. Because usually when I'm scrolling through Twitch, I'm looking for people who are kind of playing the same stuff I am. So yeah,
Right.
man, how has the journey been so far on your HCSSF journey, dude?
Oh, it's very fun actually. I'm a softcore main, right? Like trade league. That's been since point one, and I actually got into hardcore very recently, like you said, and I'm having a blast. I thought that I'm gonna do just one character and try my best, and the first character died. Then we went to the second one, and the third one, and the fourth one, and I just keep on going. It's super fun. Yeah.
It's a bit addictive too, right? Because you're kind of playing the game in a completely different way, like almost more of like a survival game, and you're like really trying to optimize like your defenses first and foremost. And it's been really cool watching you go through this and see all of these motions happen. And I think if I do remember correctly, you saying like, I haven't had this much fun playing the game in a long time. Why do you think that is?
Oh yeah, 100%. So I was thinking this, and I was talking about with a lot of people from our community about that, and it's a completely different mode. Like it doesn't matter how many thousands of hours you've got in softcore trading league. I believe that going to hardcore, it's a completely different game. Like you need to forget everything that you know, not like forget everything that you know, but slow everything down and just start looking at the environment a little bit differently, the abilities, read them a little bit more carefully, try and plan things around, you know what I mean? And that slow pace and everything matters kind of hypes you up and gets you into the game. And that's why it's so addictive, I believe, because it just one small mistake, you're going to pay for it. So you always need to be over prepared for everything that you're about to face. If that's a gorilla or Doriani or whatever the case is, you have to have the right stats to go and face them. Otherwise, you're just back to the beach. So I think that's what makes it super addictive. And also, I noticed, probably you're going to say the same. Once you go hardcore SSF, you never go back. That's what a lot of people actually say.
Music to my ears, my friend. Music to my ears. Yeah. So I know you're doing like a bit of a challenge right now. Did you want to maybe talk about sort of what that challenge involves, and yeah, what you're doing over on your side of things?
Sure. Yeah, we're having a lot of fun for the past couple of weeks now with my community, where we're coming up with challenges. It's hardcore SSF, so that's challenge enough, right, on its own. But we also add a couple of things to make it a little bit more spicier. So for example, we have a wheel, the wheel of names, where we put all of the classes in there. So we pick random class, random ascendancy. Yesterday we did one for random weapon as well. And then we have some extra things that we add there, so I don't actually have to abuse anything. So, for example, I'm not allowed to over level the areas by more than 2 or 3 levels. I'm not allowed to skip bosses. So, for example, if you go to the jungle ruins, I believe, where the gorilla is, you're not allowed to skip past that to go and over level, come back and one shot him. So you need to do the bosses whenever you encounter the bosses, kind of. So that brings a different kind of spice into the whole challenge, despite it being difficult already. So I think it's just super fun. And especially if you get like a random class, random ascendancy, a random weapon, you just go for something insanely crazy. Like we did a Amazon with a one-handed mace. So the only viable build that I found that was decent was Molten Blast, but it was so hard to go through the passive tree and everything. You know what I mean? Because you're an Amazon and you want to go a little bit to the Merc, a little bit to the Warrior, and it's super hard. So you have to do all the build crafting and everything. but it's very fun though.
Dude, I respect that and I love that so much. Coming from somebody who I'm gathering was pretty much a softcore main for the majority of his time playing PoE 2. Now you're hopping into HCSSF and not only challenging yourself with that, but also challenging yourself with all these extra parameters, which probably makes it even more fun for yourself as well as the viewers in the community as well. So I applaud you, sir. It's been sweet. And from my own standpoint, as a viewer of your stream, I've been also really enjoying it as well.
Nice, thank you, man. Yeah, it's super fun, super fun.
Yeah. So you really think that you this is a tough one because you just said once you try hardcore Soul Self-Found, it's hard to go back. Do you think now, with sort of this experience under your belt, that maybe come 0.4, you might league start hardcore SSF, or will you do the same thing you did before, where you do softcore trade first, maybe experience if there's anything new, and then transition? Where do you feel like you're at now in terms of how you're going to engage with the game?
So this is a weird one now because it's been like 2 weeks that I'm playing hardcore SSF, and it's definitely something that I'm gonna come back very, very soon. The weird part about it right now is that the way that I do my content, and I'm pretty sure it's something we're gonna touch on. I do guides mostly, and so I do need to cover patch notes and guides for different builds and stuff like that, and find unique ways to play the game. So I think I'm always going to start the leagues with softcore and trading leagues, so I can discover what there is to discover. And then I think once I feel that I've had enough with, like, usually I go for like 7, 8 different builds in a league, like point two, I did around 14 or 15 different builds. Once I feel that I had enough, then I'm going to jump into hardcore and probably go through the entire league just with hardcore SSF. Whereas before, I would just juice whatever I could from the normal league and never attempted hardcore SSF. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now I'm really happy because I feel that I have 2 games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you get
Yeah.
double the enjoyment and double the amount of playtime basically from a game that you're already spending so much time enjoying and playing as well. So it's honestly the
Yeah.
best of both worlds, which is amazing. Yeah, so I would love to jump into sort of your content and the type of content that you do. I did take a deep dive through your YouTube channel prior to this interview, but I'd like to rewind a little bit before we get into that. I want to ask you a couple Scorpius lore questions.
Okay.
So the first one that I want to start with is just, when did you start gaming and what were you playing on when you started?
Ooh, I think I was very young. I was very, very young. I don't recall the exact age, but I do know my first ever game was Pokemon.
Okay.
Like one of the first Game Boy games. Like I think it was the yellow one with Pikachu. I think that was my first official game ever.
It's a pretty big banger game to start with. Pokemon Yellow for,
Yeah.
I'm assuming, just like the standard Game Boy, if I'm not mistaken. I also had
Yeah, it is.
Pokemon as well. Yeah, so good.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the black and white Game Boy, I remember. And then shortly after, I got the color. But I'm talking about like probably it was the first ever Pokemon released where it was Pikachu following you around, kind of thing, right?
Yes,
So
I remember
yeah,
that.
that was my first game. Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, and so after that, Game Boy, obviously, did you end up getting more systems, like maybe like an N64 or a PlayStation? Like, how did the gaming develop over time with consoles?
I skipped a big chunk of that, unfortunately. I was a more of a sports kid back then, so I was playing a lot outside, football or soccer. We were playing a lot of that, and then games. We couldn't really afford getting a lot of the newer systems, so I think I remember PlayStation 1 was out for a long time before we managed to get it. And that was my first actual console after the Game Boy. And I had that for a while. And then after a couple of years, I got my first PC, and that was it. I never had another console after that. I was just only computer.
Oh, okay. So big sports guy, kind of skipped a lot of like really, really early day gaming. Do you recall sort of like a maybe a point in your life where the sports sort of stopped being more of a priority and gaming became something more prevalent? Like, was there something that happened there, maybe like an injury or something like that, or is that just kind of how life unfolded?
Actually, yeah, a little bit of everything, to be honest. It's primarily, I wouldn't say that I was in a professional level and injury stopped that. I don't think I was ever aiming to become something huge in sports. It was just the way growing up wherever, like in my country back then, every single kid would pick up a sport. You know what I mean? So I was going for. I did martial arts for a couple of years. I did soccer for a couple of years. I went swimming for a couple of years, and I did get injured. Soccer was primarily my main thing. But I did get injured, like a serious knee injury, which I stopped for like a year or two. But gaming was always the preferred choice, if you know what I mean. Like I would prefer to play with friends Game Boy with the wires and transfer Pokemon and stuff and evolve. I remember my first ever big evolution was Kadabra to Alakazam, and that required you to wire transfer that Pokemon to a friend of yours. I'll never forget that. So I would rather do that than go soccer practice, right? But um, it was really fun. Everything was really fun. But I do remember that at some point, whenever I realized that sport is not what I want to pursue in my life, then I started, I quit martial arts. I quit swimming. I kept playing soccer with a bunch of friends, but that's basically it. And then my gaps here and there, my hobby became gaming, and then it became even more gaming and more gaming, and then here we are.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah, isn't it crazy how like the Pokemon company, Nintendo, sort of like designed the game at such an early stage in like Pokemon to be so interactive with other players? Like when I was a kid, it was the same thing. I had Pokemon Red, my brother had Pokemon Blue, and in order for us to actually like evolve these Pokemon, it was like, getting a Gengar, I think also required a trade and like stuff like that. It was like it was so crazy that you actually had to like link up with people and trade and all that. And each game had specific Pokemon that you couldn't get. So yeah, it honestly felt like ahead of its time in that regard. And yeah, it's
Definitely.
amazing. Mhm.
Yeah, true. Definitely.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So, as you kind of moved away from sports as much, it sounds like you still have a passion for it. Probably still do it for fun sometimes.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you though, what are some of the other games, if you could recall, and this is kind of a tough question, that have
Mm.
left a lasting impression on you as a gamer? Maybe something on the PC. You said you got a PC and never looked back. What were some like bangers that you still look back on today?
Oh, Age of Mythology, Age of Empire, Warcraft 3. Um, yeah, there's so many good ones, man. But those are the oldest that I can remember. Like I still remember, like if you were to ask me for PlayStation 1, I still remember there was a very old school retro game, Jackie Chan. I don't know if you've ever seen it or played it, but it's engraved in my memory, man. It's insane. It's just like a couple of pixels running. It was so fun. But that was my favorite game in PS1. But then PC are things like, yeah, Prince of Persia, Age of Mythology, Age of Empire, stuff like that. And then once I discovered Warcraft 3, then I fell in love with a game that I then played for 20 years, which is World of Warcraft.
Yes, dude. It's so funny how like obscure games like this Jackie Chan game that I've actually never heard of can be so like impactful on you at such a young age as well. Like I'm sure there's games like that that I can't even remember what their like names are now, but
Yeah.
when I played them as a kid, I was like, man, this is like the most fun shit ever. And yeah, no, we have a similar gaming history. Like I played a
Mm,
lot of RTS as well when I was a kid. Warcraft 3 was incredible. Like playing Frozen Throne, like the
yeah.
story, everything, the custom games, like that got me into playing Dota when I was a kid. And then obviously, I played World of Warcraft as well for many, many years. And yeah, it was just it's a special game for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about WoW a little bit. So I saw
Sure.
when I did a little deep dive on your channel, that the oldest videos that you have on your channel are World of Warcraft videos. So tell me a little bit about your relationship with WoW. Was it the first game that you actually started doing YouTube content for? And how do you feel about Blizzard? At this current
Oh,
state.
oh,
I'm
oh.
canning the can of worms right now, right here.
Yeah, well, let me answer the first question first.
Sure, sure.
So, yeah, World of Warcraft, my history with World of Warcraft starts 2005. So I was very young whenever I started. I remember we entered, it was me and my cousin, and we entered a net cafe, and there were a bunch of 30-year-olds just smoking and playing a game that we were like 12 or 13 years old. We had no idea what was going on. We were still into the Game Boys and the PS1s and stuff like that, and as you said, Age of Mythology and whatever. And then we see all of this happening in arena, battleground, and raids and stuff. And I was like, we were mesmerized. I think we were just standing behind one specific guy for like 2 hours, just watching. You know what I mean? And that's when we decided to pick it up, and that was back in 2005. I think that's when Burning Crusade came out.
Yes.
And I remember it was like you had to buy the CDs. It was like a case of like 6 CDs, part one, two, three, four, five, six, I think it was. And
Okay.
you had to insert, yeah, the disc and download the first couple of the 20% or whatever the game. Then you take it out, put the other one, whatever. So I started. That's when I started with the Warcraft, and I've been playing up until Path of Exile 2 came out. That was when I stopped playing. And it's been a year now that I haven't played WoW. So to answer the question is that the first game that you started doing content for? Yes, it was. And funny story about it, the first couple of videos that you're going to see on this channel that I currently have are for World of Warcraft. But the funny part is that a few years back, like 2 years ago, I had another channel under the same name that had like 200 videos, probably only of World of Warcraft, with like, I don't know, 10, 7 or 8,000 subs on it or something like that. And unfortunately, I lost that channel. And the funny part about that, it was a lot of work put into it, and I lost the entire thing. And the reason why is because there is still a glitch with Google and YouTube. Whenever I'm pretty sure you're going to know about this, but on YouTube you can have like secondary accounts that are called brand accounts, right, under your main account. So if you want to delete a brand account, sometimes it glitches out and it bugs and it deletes your main channel instead of the secondary. So that's what happened with mine. So it deleted the main, and it didn't matter how many times I went up to them. I had like a screenshot and stuff, and they said, it's deleted. We cannot do anything about it. So it was like 2 years of making content. It wasn't doing amazing. It was doing okay-ish. But 2 years of making content just down the drain. And I was like, okay, well, we need to start again because that's what I want to do. So I started this channel. I posted about 4 or 5 videos of World of Warcraft. They did okay-ish. And then Path of Exile came out. And one of my friends and Twitch mods, Icy, who's currently in chat right now.
Yo, shout out to the homie.
Yeah, he actually convinced me to try Path of Exile 2. And this is, by the way, as I said, after 2 years of doing YouTube on World of Warcraft, and I've literally played everything so I can try and make content out of it to make it work, right? So Lost Ark, New World, Final Fantasy, everything and anything that came out, I played it, I tried it. And I never liked anything, because it was World of Warcraft for me. You know what I mean? I set that bar so high with World of Warcraft, and I thought that every other game that comes out is going to kill WoW. You know what I mean? So, and nothing did. I kept going back. And then Path of Exile came out, Path of Exile 2. And yeah, the rest is history. That's it.
That is absolutely devastating, dude. I'm sorry to hear about
Yeah.
that channel, bro. I can't even imagine. Like, I'm somebody who just started, creating content this year, and it hasn't even been a full year for me. And so, like, I would be so heartbroken, dude, if I like spent not only all of this year, but next year as well, and then just some stupid glitch happens and all of that work is gone. So first and foremost, I want to say, like, that sucks, and I'm sorry that that happened to you, man. There does seem to be a little bit of a silver lining though, because based on from what I've seen, not only does your new channel, which has been made in like the last, I don't know, 2 years or so, have more subs now, but you also have like better performing videos with the Path of Exile
Mm.
2 videos that you have going on right now. So it almost seems like, as shitty as the, losing the original, account was, the universe is trying to make up for it by being like, yo, here's a build guide video on Path of
Oh
Exile 2
yeah.
that's going to go 250, 300,000 views now, which is insane, by the way. So
Yeah,
seems
yeah.
like seems like things are evening out for you nowadays.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I was definitely devastated whenever that happened because it was all of my work down the drain, as I said, countless hours, sleepless hours, whatever, just got deleted. But I'm a believer that everything happens for a reason, and that's the proof right there. Like this channel, the new one, it's been, I would say, I count it as one full year. In December, it's going to be my full year because even though the channel was created before, it was under a different email, so that's why it counts longer. But the moment that I started posting consistently was in December. So I counted as a full year. So doing all of that, like 10 times the performance of the previous one in a year, is definitely, as I said, everything happens for a reason. And I couldn't be happier. It is what it is. Like I take the 2 years of creating content for the previous channel as an experience curve, learning about thumbnails, learning about the analytics, making mistakes on YouTube and learning from them. And that's basically it.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like you basically, the the first account was softcore trade league, and then you chose hardcore solo self-found, and now you're back and you're crushing it even harder. And
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah.
that's a good analogy, but my
No,
brain just
I
works
was
this way.
honestly, I was about to say, I was about to give the same analogy that
Oh,
imagine the
nice.
first account is like hardcore SSF and I
Yeah.
died after 200 hours, but now I have the experience to go again. Yeah.
Yes, there we go. That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so let's talk a bit about your build guide. So as I
Yep.
mentioned, I went kind of through your channel, and it was kind of like, a few World of Warcraft videos, a couple um, you know, early on Path of Exile 2 videos, and then boom, the build guides just start popping off, like, hundreds of thousands of views and stuff like that. So tell me a little bit about like that process. How did you discover maybe what you love about build guide making, and all that fun stuff as well?
Yeah. That's a really nice topic to talk about because it all started with World of Warcraft again. In World of Warcraft, the videos that I was doing was build guides. I don't know what it is. It's just something about me teaching the things that I know to other people or discovering stuff and then sharing it with people. It's something that brings me adrenaline. I don't know what it is. Like I'm addicted to making guides. It was what I was doing with World of Warcraft. It's what I'm doing now, and I'm gonna forever do that. Whatever game I go to next, right? Um, and based on your previous question about Blizzard, and here's how I'm going to answer and tie it nicely with
Mm,
your current question, is that when I was doing guides for World of Warcraft, the reason why things were going so slow, it wasn't because the quality wasn't there, but because of the player base and the way that the game has been created. Um, that's how I feel, right? So the World of Warcraft is a very, very tough niche to penetrate when it comes down to trying to educate people, because I'm pretty sure anybody who's played WoW knows that the community in World of Warcraft are basically people that believe that they are the first that started World of Warcraft in the world, and you know what I mean. They cannot learn more. It's just that's that. So guides don't really. It's either you need to be rank one in everything in WoW for your guide to be successful, or people just don't watch videos when it comes down to WoW, right? And it's been a couple of years that I wanted to step away from WoW because of Blizzard, and you wanted to talk about that as well. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of how they treat their audience, I would say, their players, microtransactions, all of that stuff. Um, yeah, having a game out for over 20 years and still having like a subscription based monthly is wild to me. Having like pay to win in the game is wild. So yeah, there's a lot of things that I don't appreciate, but also obviously there's Diablo. There's like amazing games. Don't get me wrong. Blizzard used to be the GOAT company for me when it comes down to gaming. They had literally the best games out there. It's just I think greed over everything. That mindset doesn't really sit well with me. So that's basically it. I didn't step away from WoW because of Blizzard, but because I found a better game than that. And the reason why I think PoE 2 is a better game, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get into that, is I have massive respect for the company behind that. I've seen what they've done with PoE 1. I see how they talk and how they feel about their game, and that's something that I've never ever connected with when it comes down to WoW, and I'm somebody that never skipped a single expansion in World of Warcraft. And watching Ian for so many years talking about the expansions, I never felt that way that I feel with Jonathan or Mark or people like that. But yeah, to your question, when it comes down to wait, what was the current question now? Because I just wanted to cover the other question with Blizzard.
No, this is great. Let's talk about Blizzard for a bit. So, dude, we're
Okay.
so aligned about this. It's actually crazy. Like, I
Okay.
agree on everything you just said. Blizzard for me was the company that basically got me addicted to video games in the best way possible. So when I was a kid,
Mm,
it was Diablo 2 was like the first game that I really played that was from
yeah.
Blizzard, and StarCraft. So those are the two games. And it felt like after getting into Blizzard games at that age, they never missed. It was like, StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3, World of Warcraft, even Overwatch, like banger after banger after like the best games that had ever been made type shit. And then all of a sudden they just hit a wall. And
Yeah.
it actually caused me to like really wonder what the fuck actually happened. And I'm going to send you a link to a book that I read. It's called Play Nice, written by Jason Schreier. And essentially
Okay.
what he does is he breaks down the company from its inception to the golden era to what happened, with Diablo 3 and,
Oh, nice.
up to basically modern era Blizzard. I feel like you would really enjoy this because there's a lot of stuff that happened within Blizzard that actually explains why. And, there's a whole controversy, like, a whole big controversy with Blizzard as well. But yeah, it
Yeah.
helped me sort of like gauge, like, why did they fall off so hard? And also, how were they able to just constantly make these incredible games for us to enjoy that left like a lasting impression on us? And it's crazy
Yeah.
because Diablo, the franchise, I love it so much that I will still buy Diablo 5 when it comes out, sheerly out of the respect for Diablo 2. And it's funny because the people who made Diablo 2, none of them work at Blizzard anymore. None of them. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's kind of Blizzard in a
I,
nutshell.
I honestly think that the exact same thing counts for World of Warcraft mains, right? So I would still go to World of Warcraft just to experiment to see what's new, just for the respect that I have for how World of Warcraft made me feel 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So
Mhm.
it's all coming back to nostalgia, I think, and the fact that we're saying, okay, this expansion is going to be better. This expansion, they're going to bring it home. And as I said, the greed over anything else mentality is not sitting well for me. So that's where I think they lost me and a lot of other players, and they lost the ball. Really, is that they prioritized the reality of our world, the problems of our world. I'm not going to go deeper into these kind of controversial stuff, but you know what I'm talking about, right? So money as well and everything else that's happening in the world, they started adding that into the video game that everyone was playing to escape reality and escape all of that BS. And slowly that build up a pile. And then we have a lot of names that we know. There's some of them in chat that people mentioned there, cough, cough, but they started being super greedy
Yeah.
and everything became just a dollar sign. There was no love about what they were doing. And that's basically it. That's it. But again, I still believe that Blizzard is one of the goats of old school proper gaming, in my opinion.
100%.
So
There's
yeah,
not a doubt in the world. And, to come full circle with our previous conversation about your channel, I think everything happens for a reason. One company can have a tremendous fumbling of the bag, and then that actually gave room for GGG to kind of peek their heads out of the shadows when Diablo 3 kind of wasn't hitting for people and say, yo, we're going to make our sequel to Diablo 2. We're going to make our own ARPG.
yeah.
Boom, Path of Exile gets born. And now Path of Exile 2 is here. And Path of Exile 2 kind of came at a time where a lot of people weren't happy with Diablo 4 as well. And so there's a silver lining with Blizzard's follies as well, is that like it's allowed GGG to shine and showcase to people this is, bringing us back to the roots of like good game design, developers who
Mm.
care about their player base and who prioritize fun and enjoyment like over everything else. Like it's kind of crazy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I honestly believe that GGG are geniuses, man. They couldn't have planned this better. And I saw a lot of very, very old school interviews with Jonathan where they actually mentioned that their inspiration is D2, right? Diablo 2, because it's like the greatest ARPG game ever made, right? And so yeah, it's beautiful to see what people can do, because it's not always you need to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes you need to get something that works and polish it and making your own way. And then boom, as you said, Path of Exile was born. And now we have Path of Exile 2, which is insanely fun and a great game that has the potential to become the best ARPG that we currently have. So yeah, it's just brilliant to see.
Absolutely. And it's like a double-edged sword where it's like the game is insanely fun. It makes every other like early access game kind of like pale in comparison a little bit. And
Mm.
then you do research into the company, and I glaze GGG and PoE 2 all the time. So I'm fully, I
Yeah,
love
I'm with
doing
you.
it. They deserve it. But then you look into
Yep.
the company and you're like, you see these people, these passionate developers who are making all of the, great decisions, listening to player feedback, and that only like strengthens the, I guess, the relationship between you and the game, because not only do you enjoy the game now, but you also enjoy the developers as well, and it's a really great place to be at, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about ARPGs, which is the main focus of this podcast. So did you play like Diablo 2 at all? What was like your first ARPG that you played when you were like a kid or like a young adult?
Um, yeah, Diablo 2. Yeah, probably Diablo 2 was my first one. And I'm gonna be completely honest. I didn't play it for too long. I've always considered myself more an MMORPG enjoyer after my phase with things like Age of Mythology and Age of Empire and all of that. And I did play Dota, and then League of Legends, and then we had another one, Heroes of New Earth, I think, launched, and then they canceled it. If you remember that one. But then whenever I started playing WoW, it was just MMORPGs for me mainly. And I did try Diablo 3, Diablo 4. I did try everything and anything that could be there, and there was a hype about it, but nothing. Yeah, nothing made me quit MMORPGs. It was just something about MMORPGs that kept me going. Maybe is the competitiveness, because I did have a very good competitive background in WoW back in the day. Whenever I was at school, I didn't have anything else. I didn't have any responsibilities. I was just playing 12 hours, 13 hours of WoW. I managed to achieve rank 2 rogue on my server. PvP, I was a PvP main first. So I really enjoyed that competitive aspect of the game. So ARPGs would only just attract me to go through the graphics and the game and the campaign and then a little bit of the end game. But then the repetitiveness of the end game would pull me back to WoW. But yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like if you're really, really into MMORPGs, it doesn't really leave room to like enjoy other types of games, because like MMORPGs just like require so much time. You're also paying monthly
Yeah.
for them as well. So it's like if you're
Yep.
paying monthly for a game, it doesn't really make sense to play other games, because you don't have to pay monthly for those ones. So it's like you want to get your value for your time, right? And the
For sure.
design philosophy behind MMOs is like, there are constantly new expansions, which basically reset your progression. And then you have to do everything all over again with WoW, which is, a blessing
Yeah.
and a curse for the game, I believe. But yeah, no, that makes sense. So Diablo 2 was
Don't
sort of,
forget
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Don't forget, yeah, sorry, don't forget that there's also the fact that you're playing catch up in
Hmm.
MMORPGs, in WoW at least. You're playing catch up with other players, because if you want to raid, you need to have gear. So that means that you need to be there week in, week out, all the dailies, all the raids, all the mythics, just so you can keep up either with your guildies or not. PvP, exactly the same thing. Otherwise, nobody is going to invite you to do anything. So you do have that FOMO going on every single week, right? So that's a very, very different mindset for a game versus something that you can literally just chill. ARPG, you just chill. There's no FOMO. There's nothing like that. Just do your thing. I mean, there is FOMO when it comes down to Trading League, sure. But yeah, that's about it. So if you can handle WoW, I mean, it's very easy to handle any ARPG when it comes down to that mindset.
Absolutely. No, I'm super happy that you brought that up. I think that idea of like you're always kind of behind unless you're playing to the absolute maximum potential that you can
Yeah.
is actually pretty toxic, and it's not a good way to feel about playing a video game. Like whenever you're playing a video game, you're supposed to
Yeah.
be having fun, and it's not fun to feel like I need to like catch up and like make it feel like work almost. And that's why for me personally, like I haven't really gotten into MMORPGs in a while because I was getting sick of that. I think the last one I really played was New World. Rest in peace, by the way. It just got like canceled like 2 days
Yeah.
ago. But yeah, like I really love like the I don't know, I really love MMORPGs. Like I played, since RuneScape, I played WoW, I played a bunch of different ones, and the
Mm.
feeling of being in a immersive online world with a bunch of different players all doing and interacting with the systems and mechanics is a great
Yeah.
time. And so I hope that we can get a new MMO maybe down the road that like captures maybe the magic of what we had before without all of these
Sure.
modern day FOMO, pay to win, all this bullshit that kind of ruined the genre. I
Well,
don't know.
we're hoping that Ashes of Creation is going to do that, but we're still hoping.
That's
We'll
the
see.
one, right? That's the
Yeah.
one. And I do have high hopes for that, but we'll see, man, because it's been a tough road for MMO developers. Like there hasn't really been anything stand out. I know Throne and Liberty kind of came out and it was like it had a bunch
Yeah.
of pay to win in it, and people didn't love that in the West. And New World, which was like the last really big Western release, is now dead. And it just seems like the games that we were playing as kids, World of Warcraft, old school RuneScape, and like Final Fantasy 14, like that's the ones that are still going strong, like 10,
Yeah.
15 years later.
True.
Yeah. It's almost like the RTS genre where it's like it had its peak, nothing else has came out that's innovated on it, and now it's kind of like teetering on the grave as well. Because they're so expensive to develop too, right? Like MMORPGs.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's where developers come in there and say, okay, we need to have microtransactions more than just skins, right? So I think that's what's very dangerous for the developers. That's why also a lot of people, it's been years now, but Ashes of Creation is very hopeful. And I think it's going to be really good. Also, we've heard that Riot is preparing an MMORPG on their own. So when you have like a player who also has the cash to create something, like the developer of Ashes of Creation, for example, I watched his first interview, and he's firstly a player, and now he's starting to create this because we don't have anything good out there, right? That was the idea. So if you have the money and you know what you're doing, then you can create something good. But don't forget that also games need to make money. So microtransactions need to be there, but pay to win is the main killer for any kind of game, I believe. So as long as you have skins and just stuff that don't affect what happens in the game and your progression with the game, I think they're going to be fine. And that's again another. Oh my God, I'm glazing GG so much. That's another thing that I want to point out for GG as a 20-year veteran of World of Warcraft, with all of those microtransactions shoved in my face every single month, paying the subscription, the expansions cost an arm and a leg. You've got so many things going on in the game where you can pay to win, buy boosts, buy gear, whatever the case is. Then I come to a game that does not have any pay to win. There's no subscription. And not only that, if you want to buy something like a pack, you get everything that you want, the skins, but also you get your money's worth as coins so you can keep shopping. That was mind-blowing for me. You know what I mean? I was like, what? What's happening here? Why?
And the game is going to be free to play, dude.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's going to be free to play, which is crazy. I mean, I would pay full retail price for this game, $100 easily. I mean, I've gotten my fair share for $30. The value is absolutely nuts that you can get from Path of Exile. And so yeah, massive respect to GGG always for that. Like they really prioritize like players' value with the money that they spend. And it's just refreshing, dude. Like it just in this ecosystem that we're in right now, it just feels refreshing to see that. And yeah, dude,
definitely.
I love it. I'm so happy to be on this ride in PoE2 with you and with the rest of the community, man. It's just such a good time.
Sure.
So I wanted to ask you, being in this community now, and you have been since December, just like myself, I feel like you must have noticed that like the PoE 2 and PoE community just on the whole has like a certain like secret sauce to it. It's just an awesome community. Like
Oh, 100%.
I love it. So maybe talk to me a little bit about why you feel like this community just is so great and has that secret sauce.
To be honest, I don't have. We can talk about PoE one in a little bit if you want as well, but I don't have as much experience as I have in PoE two than I have. Obviously, in PoE two is my main game, so I don't have a lot of experience with PoE one. I do know that a lot of them come over to PoE two whenever the league launches for like a month or something, and but yeah, 100%. That was like one of the first things that I noticed how kind people are, how good they are, how patient they are. And you know where I noticed that? On my streams, firstly, before I noticed it in the game. I've noticed it in the game as well because I don't interact with people. I didn't actually interact with people very often in the beginning in game, but on my streams, it was crazy how quickly people would take initiative to help somebody out, even though that could waste easily an hour of their own time. You know what I mean? Like show them different stuff, pull them out of the stream chat, go into Discord, explain things, go on calls with them. It was like, what is going on? Why are people so good and kind and everything? So I did. It was one of the first things that actually caught my eye, and I don't actually know why. I cannot put my finger to it. I think it's how GGG presents themselves, how the game is, what's happening. Because the further we go, though, I do need to talk about the other side as well. But I have also noticed that since point one, the community has shifted a little bit towards a little bit more towards the negative, right? Since point one. So point one, it was really nice. Then point two, it started being a little bit more toxic. Then point three, it was a little bit better. So it feels that if I had to put my finger on it, it feels that it's based on the game. If the game is good and GGG gives players what they want, the majority are going to be happy. Therefore, they're chill. They're not stressed about anything. They're enjoying themselves. If they don't like it, then move away. And also, that could be another thing that the majority of people have another game to go to. If they get bored, if they don't like something, they just go back to PoE 1 or World of Warcraft or whatever the case is. Whereas, like we said before, if you're playing an MMORPG as your main game and you really care about your performance in the game, I don't think you have time to play a whole month and a half or two of another game and then miss all of that in WoW. You're going to come back, nobody's going to invite you ever. So it's a lot harder to do that. So I think a little bit of those things is why the community is so good.
Absolutely. I agree. One thing that I love to, add, or I'd love to add is sort of something that I talked about with Timmy P. Shout out to the homie on about this question as well. And he had some great points about that that I actually didn't realize. And it's about how the game is focused on like giving information and stuff to other players instead of taking stuff. So like a lot of toxic games, like, the most toxic games that I've ever played are like, Rust or maybe like Dota 2 or like Counter-Strike. And all of these games, they're focused around taking your elo from other players, taking their items from other players, basically killing people. And that's not something that you have in Path of Exile or in this particular ARPG. There's no PvP. The only interaction that you can have with people is partying up with people, playing together and helping each other. And I think that in itself, in essence, creates this like community that's focused around being helpful. I mean, knowledge is power in Path of Exile. Everybody knows that, you can be, the most mechanically skilled player in the game, but if you don't have the knowledge to back that up, you're not going to succeed, right? And so I think it's super cool that like, and refreshing as well to be part of this community that's like very focused on like sharing information, sharing knowledge, helping each other out. And yeah, so as a follow-up to that, I know yourself as a PvP sort of guy from World of Warcraft, who's somebody who really enjoys it. Would you want to see PvP put into Path of Exile 2, and how would you go about it if you wanted to maybe see that implemented?
Oh, definitely, 100%. I would love to see it. I wouldn't love it to be the main thing, or I don't want it to lock something behind it. So here's a very, very good point that you made, and I think that's what I want to touch on based on this question. If it forces people to do something so they can progress in the game, that's how people are going to start building that negativity. So as long as it doesn't lock people from achieving something and it's just there for something additional that could also be achieved from a different source or another piece of content, 100%. I don't think there's anything that we're gonna lose if we do have PvP. There's a lot of PvP enjoyers playing PoE 2. There are a ton of WoW players that started playing Path of Exile 2 whenever it started coming out, when it came out. And so there's definitely a lot of room for PvP for sure. And how I would do it, I think I think I've seen PoE 1 has it. I just played once and I saw it was like rounds kind of thing. But I think like you had like 3, 4, or 5 rounds or something like that, and the best of those 5 wins. So maybe something similar to that, but it would be much more interesting, I believe, in PoE 2 because it's a slower game. It's going to be a little bit more tactical instead of just zooming at each other at 200 miles an hour. You know what I mean? And just whoever one shots the other one first. But maybe it could be like what I would prefer personally, and this is just me brainstorming right now, is if you want a PvP, you're not allowed to bring your gear into the arena. So you register your class that you are. Let's say I'm a monk, invoker monk, and you have all of your gear, your weapons, and everything goes to a base level. Let's say of level 60, right? And your abilities and everything, you are downgraded to that specific level. You keep your build, and then the same happens with your opponent, and you guys are at equal gear, equal abilities. It's just skill that matters, because otherwise it's just going to be that who's more geared is going to one-shot the other one. You know what I mean?
100%. And it kind of reminds me of, so when I played WoW, I started playing in Classic and then moved into Burning Crusade. And in Classic, I had so much fun doing like twink characters. So I would get like a level 19 rogue, and then I would deck it out in like the best gear you could get for that level. And I feel like that would honestly be kind of sick. I think this kind of goes against your point where you couldn't use your own gear, but it would be cool if it was locked into different levels. And then you would have to basically build your character around the gear set of specific levels. So like, for instance, in level in WoW, it was the level 19 twinks where like, you'd go into the battlegrounds and everyone would be like decked out in like these items that you'd have to get and acquire from like, going into like Wailing Caverns or something or whatever. And so that would kind of be cool too, especially because I think the lower level PvP would be super fun because you have access to less skills and less items as well. And so it'd be really cool to go in there with like maybe some leveling uniques, just a few skills. The game still feels like it has meaningful combat at that stage of the game as well. And it would be dope as fuck. And I think you're absolutely right. As long as that's not like mandatory for players, because let's be honest, 95% of people who play ARPGs don't want to engage with PvP. There is that like 5%, maybe 10% of players who want to, but as another way to engage with the game, I think there's nothing wrong with that. And there's absolutely like a niche right now in the ARPG space where like not many of these games even have PvP to begin with. So I think if they did it right, they could really fill this niche and actually attract even more players to the game, which is a good thing for sure.
100%. I agree. But I don't know if it's I do know that ARPGs, I agree with you, ARPG players are not very PvP oriented. But again, don't forget the PoE 2 came out like less than a year ago, and we did attract a ton of players from other games. Like the times that I mentioned to someone that I've played WoW and I quit WoW for PoE 2, and I had the same exact response back where like so many times, So there are a lot of new players, and I think there is room for that. As you said, if they do it right, Twink Arena would be beautiful, but also ranked arena where everyone is on the same level, same base, just skill from there would be also cool. But I mean, GGG needs to get it right, and I think they will. If they're ever going to be PvP, it's going to be probably in the far future.
That'd be so sick, dude. Imagine PvPing against somebody and like 1v1 and you're a warrior and you like stun them and you hit them with the perfect perfect strike on them, and they like one time, like, it would just feel sick to like do that shit on other people. Like
True.
if you're like a
True.
ranger and you're freezing somebody and then you hit them with the perfect snipe, like, ooh, that would feel good, honestly.
Yeah. Now imagine that arena has traps like Trials of Camus and stuff like that
Yeah.
coming at you as well. So you need to consider that too. There is room for creativity here.
Definitely, definitely, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're aware of this. I mean, obviously they have it in PoE 1, as you mentioned.
Mm.
How high on the priority list? Probably not super high at the moment, due to them having to develop the game first. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, after 1.0 comes out, we would get like some sort of expansion, or that was like focused on an arena of some kind. That'd be
Yeah.
so sick.
For
Um,
sure.
so let's rewind a little bit. I want to just hear
Okay.
your general experience with the game. Um, and I want to hear about like what about the game really made you think like this is a game that I could be playing for the next like long term, like the next while. Like, was there anything that really stuck out to you when you played that made you feel that way? Give me the scoop.
Yeah. So if I piece the puzzles together as a newer content creator as well with a new channel, a new game came out. I tried it. I ticked every single box that I'm looking for in a game, which is it's immersive, it's beautiful to watch, it's a great game. Developers know what they're doing. They're players as well. They care about the community. All of these things. It's free to play. Again, it's very engaging in many ways. You can do so many different things. If I look at what the future could hold in PoE 2, is very promising. And the fact that I am considered new to ARPGs, and I'm growing with the game is like it's like one of a kind. You know what I mean? It's not always that you match everything and you can grow with the game. Usually, people start playing a game after it's been released 2 years. A lot more people have more knowledge than you. You know what I mean? You feel that you're playing that catch up again. But I think I touched on a lot of points of what impressed me, and I think it for a game that doesn't really. I don't know what your opinion is and what everyone's opinion is about ARPG lore. Do we care about it, or do we not care about it?
Oh, okay. This is a great question that I talked about yesterday. And by the way, just as a side note, you're free to ask me any questions you want. This is a
Okay.
two-way conversation. So I know that I've been
Okay.
interviewing you, but if you feel at any time that you want to be like, "Yo, Blaze, what do you think of this?" Happy to answer it. Just gonna put that out there.
Okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, so lore, I am a firm believer, and this I think goes back to Diablo 2. Is that
Mm.
lore for me is something that I really, really enjoy, story, all that stuff on the first playthrough. And I actually really like when I play a new ARPG to like read the dialogue, listen to all the voice lines. Like I just started playing Titan Quest 2, a new ARPG that's got released in early access a few months ago, and I really had a lot of fun doing that. It's like a Greek mythology based ARPG,
Mm.
and I like that. And then after you've experienced it the first time, who the fuck cares? Just blast through the campaign, get to the end
Right.
game, play the game. But I do think that having a story is important, especially for people who maybe only play the campaign and only play it once. Like it does add a lot of value and a lot of immersion. That's my thoughts.
Right. Okay. I'm usually exactly the same as you. Like my first playthrough of any kind of game, I'm gonna read the dialogue. I'm gonna read the quest log even to understand the character's thought process of the quest and all that stuff. You know what I mean? But there's something about PoE 1 and 2 that it didn't make me want to do that. I don't know what it is. Is it because there's no cinematics and I was used to being interrupted with cinematics, like cool cinematics, those are going to draw me in? I don't know what it is about it, but I didn't. Yeah, I did it. I don't care about it. Like zero. You know what I mean? Like I just cared about the hooded one because he looked cool. I researched, I learned about him, but that's about it. Like I don't care about anything else. And that I just wanted to ask to see because, as I said, I'm new to the ARPGs, and whenever I did play Diablo 4, that was more welcoming when it comes down to me caring about the story. But maybe that's the Blizzard signature because they're very good at cinematics and stuff like that. But I don't know.
Absolutely. No, I think this is a great like point of discussion. I think that
Yep.
first and foremost, the And I always say like the Diablo lore and story, and I talked about this with Jazzers yesterday, but I'm happy to reiterate, is just
Mm.
such a familiar thing because it's the classic good versus evil, angels versus the devil.
Yeah,
It's a story as old as time, and it's something that we can easily understand. Who's the bad guy, who's the good guys, and where do we fit within this storyline? And it helps us actually care about that a bit more easily. Whereas in Path of Exile 2, you can tell, like, obviously the beast is like, evil and it's corrupting the land and
yeah,
stuff like that, but it's not as familiar of a story as Diablo's like angels and demons and all that kind of stuff. And so I think Diablo does that incredibly well. Obviously, Blizzard has a lot more like cinematics and stuff that help carry the storyline through.
yeah.
PoE does it, PoE 2, I should say, does it really well through just immersion in the campaign in terms of like boss fights and like moments in the campaign. Like, you take
Sure.
the hooded one down off of the tree and then you go and, progress through the act and like these story moments, like, you pass through the gallows where your character actually was about to die at the beginning. And like all certain things happen as you're playing the game, which is great. Path of Exile 1, on the other hand, I'm sorry, the campaign just not it's not it. No one no one watches that dialogue, or very few
Right,
people watch that dialogue, or
right, right,
listen. Yeah, but I hear you, bro.
right. Yeah. So what you asked about what got me into PoE2, I think after playing and PoE1 and Diablo 4, and that's about it. I think the main reason I stayed in Path of Exile 2 is because it had for me the perfect balance of fancy combat and speed. If it was faster or there were too many things happening at the same time, I would have probably with like it would have made me withdraw a little bit. You know what I mean? But the fact that it's a little bit slower pace and I can see all of the abilities and everything, that's what got me into it in the very beginning in point one. That's what made me keep playing. And the further I went, the quicker I became. I mean, quicker. It's Path of Exile 2. It's not that quick, but you know what I mean? Like the abilities were flashier. I mean, and stuff like that. And then when I started playing PoE1, I was like, wow, what is going on? You know what I mean? So that's a huge difference. And speed for me was a big one. And especially WASD, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I think, yeah, I think WASD is like in my top three of why I'm still playing or why I played PoE2 after its release. Yeah.
No, I hear you, man. The progression, like, and here's the thing: we're both people that I'm assuming you played PoE 2 first and then tried PoE 1 after, or did you play PoE 1 first?
Correct.
Okay, so yeah,
No, PoE2 first.
we're
Yep.
the same. Like, so we experienced PoE 2 first, and I think that's an important distinction to make in this conversation because that's our baseline. And a lot of
Yeah.
people, when it comes to the Path of Exile universe, their baseline is like you get shield charge at level whatever it is 4, and then you're literally like boom, boom, boom.
Zooming.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you're zooming. You get your quicksilver flask at like the same level. And so personally, for me, I totally agree with you that the progression feels a lot like smoother in PoE 2 as you slowly build up. When you get like 10% movement speed boots, it feels like a huge upgrade. When you get 20%, it feels like a huge upgrade. And it feels like with Path of Exile 1, once you have Frostblink and Leap Slam, you're basically at maximum movement speed for your character until like way later into the end game when you like actually like
Yeah.
get insane. So yeah, no, I totally agree, man. The progression in PoE 2 just feels so freaking good, especially for like us because that's the game we started playing first, right?
Yeah. For
Yeah.
sure. I
Yeah.
agree.
What was like a moment in the game that like really made you be like, holy shit, like this game is like on another level? Were there any of those like holy shit moments for you, like when you started playing?
Yeah, there is one I remember. I'm never gonna forget this. I don't know if this is a big moment, a small moment for people, but it was definitely a point where I said this game is gonna be huge, and it might be something small for a lot of people, but the first time that I've ever fought Doriani with the music on, because I played the first playthrough with the music and the dialogue and everything. Once I approached that dude and he started fighting, and I died like probably 6, 7 times before he transformed to a wolf the first time ever.
Or we're talking about Gianor. Oh, sorry. I think you said
Oh,
Doriani.
Gianor. Sorry, not
Yeah.
Doriani. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry. Count Gianor. Yeah. Count Gianor the first time, and I heard the soundtrack, I heard his voice lines, and the fight and the mechanics of that boss, I think that specific package of the boss made me fall in love with the game. Period. I think that was it.
Dude, I agree.
That
That
was my
boss
moment.
fight is perfect. Like the music is so friggin' epic. And then yeah, right when you think that it's over phase two and then the poetry shit and everything, it's just like that boss is, and I think that's they did such a good job with Act One because the point of Act One is supposed to really hook you. Like it's supposed to showcase
Yeah.
this is what we want to do with this game. And I think they absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I never skip his music every single time I'm going to fight him. Probably, as I said, I'm doing like 10 to 13 builds every league. So imagine how many classes I'm leveling. Every single time that I'm going to fight the dude, I stop everything on stream and just put his music because it's just, it's the reason I kept on playing. You know what I mean? It's so good. And the mechanics as well, by the way, beautiful. It was the only point that I cared about lore. So I Googled who he is, what happened, who's the voice actor behind him, who wrote and composed the music. I Googled everything about that. It was so well put together.
Yo, Camille has been dropping some fucking heat for music, even in PoE 1, man. PoE 1's got some
Yeah.
incredible music that he's made as well. But like PoE 2, yeah, Geonor fight, gotta be one of my favorites. Also, I really like the Trial of the Sekama's music as well. I think that like encapsulates the vibe in there. And
Mm.
yeah, the Ziggurat encampment.
Yeah.
Like, dude, just so much good music in that game as well.
True.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you as a sort of a follow-up. So we talked about stuff that you really like about the game.
Mm.
What sort of moments were like your oh shit moments? What really has, made you want to keep playing for as a long-term player? Do you have any like really hot takes about the game right now? Maybe
Uh-oh.
something that's very like, gets you in trouble with your community. I'd love to hear if you got any sort of hot takes about the game right now.
Uh-oh. Uh yeah, I absolutely hate the fog, man. I hate it from day one. Like I can never be okay with the fog. I don't see a point where there's no like a setting where we can toggle that shit off. That's the one thing I absolutely hate about the game, and I'm super vocal about it. And if anybody doesn't understand what I'm talking about, is I'm talking about the distilled emotions fog on your maps. I call them from day one depression maps because they literally give me depression whenever I'm mapping 10 in a row. It's like you go from a beautiful designed colorful game to white and black, like black and white for no reason. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing. You cannot see what's happening in the ground. You cannot see your own abilities. It's foggy. It's like I understand the aesthetic feeling, but cool. How many times do I need to see that? Let me just toggle it off and we're good. You know what I mean? Like don't disable it fully. I know that there's some people that actually like that, but yeah, that's definitely one thing that I absolutely hate right now. There are a few other things that I could say. Yeah, the campaign. Listen, this was my opinion before they did the ascendancy reset. If you remember, we weren't allowed to reset our ascendancies. So every new ascendancy that I wanted to try, I had to level up another character. So at some point, I had like 4 or 5 different monks because I wanted to try the entirety of the monk builds and everything, whatever. So back then, I said that I wanted a campaign skip button, like again, not mandatory, whoever wants, or something in between where if you've done like a tier 15 map, you unlock something of a skip or whatever in the campaign. That would be that could sometimes it is a hot take because people think that it's obviously it's mandatory to go through the campaign. It's how you get the levels, but I think they can get creative. That's it. I think I'm mostly positive, to be honest, man. I'm mostly positive about the game. I don't think that I have many negative points apart from the fog. I genuinely hate that thing. But it's still early access. I know that they're working on it. They've been cooking for so long, and even point two, by the way, that's something that gets me in trouble. Actually, now that I think about it, I didn't mind point two. I definitely didn't mind point two. It
Okay.
was it it was an introduction of a brand new class, which we still have, so it's something new. And to the very least, I think that that whole expansion was like a stigma for GGG to understand what players need, what's been happening, what they did, what doesn't work. So even though it wasn't as exciting as point one, which obviously, if you think about it, what did point one offer apart from the launch of the game, right? And then point three, they knew everything what they had to do right. So point two is like a very very important league for me, an expansion in my eyes, right? Because it taught them something. It showed us what we like, what we don't like, and then we can go from there. And it's okay to have leagues like that from time to time, right? So we can see what works, what doesn't work. So I absolutely did not mind point two. I had a lot of fun, even though everything that we played was lightning spear. But yeah, it was pretty fun.
Oh man, yeah, no. So just to kind of follow up with what you're saying, like in
Yeah.
terms of the delirium fog being the thing that like you hate the most,
Mm,
I don't even think that's a hot take, bro. Like I completely agree with everything you just said. Like the fact that it's tied to like the end game juicing system where like you have to do that in order to like maximize the amount of potential from your like high end maps. It just feels
mm.
bad, dude. It looks bad. As you said, I like you call it depression fog. Like, it makes you feel depressed. Like the game is so beautiful.
Yeah.
It has such like a great color palette and all these maps and designs, and then you just take all of that away from us. Like, come on, man. Just so we can get better items and shit on the ground. Like, it feels bad, 100%. The campaign
Yeah.
skip for me. I think it made more sense maybe back when we didn't have an option to reroll our ascendancies. I think that now that that's a thing that they've sort of added into the game, I definitely don't think that it's necessary. This is
Yeah.
again coming from somebody who's played Diablo 2 for 20 years. Like that's just part of the game is going through the campaign when you make a new character. Although I
Sure.
would be interested to see what creative solutions they would come up with if they did do that. I just don't know exactly what that looks like. And for me personally, I have a hard time understanding why you'd want to skip a campaign that is the best part of the game. The bit is the best part of the game right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
just to answer to that, so
Mhm.
if I had the option, I would do it, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because as somebody that is the first 2 months of a league, my goal is to try as many builds as I possibly can. A, that way I believe that I'm learning the game. B, I memorize more builds and more abilities so I can connect things better. And C, I think I'm becoming a much better build crafter if I have like opinions and experience with like 10 or 15 different builds apart from just one build or one class or one element type, right? So I definitely 100% would love to go through the campaign at least twice per league. But then after the second time, if I had the option, I'm not saying that it's the like game breaker or whatever for me, deal breaker. Sorry, I would prefer if I could skip at least half of the campaign so I can just go to the end game because my main point is to try the builds. You know what I mean? Because there are a lot of builds that are coming online very late in the campaign. So going through the Hooded Ones tree, and then again, you know, not Doriani, but Draven, and all of that. You know, Lackland boss, the same stuff over and over. And if you think about it, you're just zooming at that point. If you're on your sixth campaign in the league on week 4, you just you don't care about anything. You're skipping half of the bosses. You pay a boost for all trials at the same time. So what are we doing if you think about it? It is cool, but on the sixth time, I would prefer if I skip it. You know what I mean? So that's the only thing that I'm saying. It's not mandatory, but I would definitely use it if I had the option.
No, no, I hear you, man. I get it. And yeah, it's a tough thing because when you allow people to essentially skip in my opinion, like the best part of the game right now,
Yeah.
like it feels like it just takes away from all of the work that they're doing to make the campaign so incredible, along with also trivializing so many items that they've also spent hundreds of hours developing and making to allow you to play through the campaign faster on your second, third, fourth character as well. And so
Mm.
for me right now, I don't really see a world in which they would just fully allow you to just skip half of the campaign just because they've dedicated so many resources to making this campaign, like in my personal opinion, the best one in any ARPG thus far. along with all the time spent on art and graphics for making these items and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
as you said, it kind of is like a pseudo skip where, like, my personal opinion, the best playthrough in any game, in any like sense of the game, is like, for me, hardcore solo self-found league start. You have nothing to your fucking name and you're fighting for your life to get like a transmute and an AUG. Like, that is like
Yeah,
the best feeling in this game. And like that
I agree.
that is better than end game mapping. Like, that for me is the top tier shit. And that's just my
No,
personal opinion.
100%.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
SSF, hardcore, SSF on its own, whatever it is, campaign is the goat. 100%.
Mhm.
Like crafting everything and looking out for everything and disenchanting everything, whatever. But I'm talking about softcore trade league. After 4 or 5 weeks of league, I understand, but I want to spend my time in the end game. You know what I mean? Because it's week 5 already. I've done the campaign like multiple times. And I'm not talking about SSF, right? SSF is very important to have your campaign, to have your time, kill all the bosses. Like, even do the bosses that you don't really care about for the quests, right? You're going to go just in case you have another rare that's going to help your run, right? In softcore, you don't care about that. You're equipped with like 4 different uniques at that point. You know what I mean? Like,
100%. Yeah, and
yeah.
there are games that have figured it out or done it differently. Like, Last Epoch is a great example where, like, the second time you play through,
Hmm.
there's like these dungeons that you can do that like provide you with like significant
Right.
like XP boosts and stuff like that. So there are options for people to do that. Or there are options for game developers that have done that. And so I'm curious to see. The way that I look at it, and I could be completely wrong here, because
Hmm.
GGG for the longest time has like held strong on like certain things. As I know that people have been wanting campaign skip in Path of Exile 1 for like 10 years,
Right.
and they never did it. But people have also been wanting asynchronous trade in Path of Exile 1 for like 10 years. And now that Path of Exile 2's here, they dropped that shit before the game's even done. And so we could be seeing something like this happening in Path of Exile 2 and 1, in the future. It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, yeah. I would love to see that. And to end your question about hot takes, I do have one that I'm not very vocal about it because I did do actually I am. I did do a video reviewing the patches whenever they surprised us with the tower changes in the end game, right? I've always been positive about the game and give it a chance. And then whenever they decided to take away the towers, I liked it, but I didn't like it at the same time. The reason why I liked it is because I didn't like the pathing. It didn't make sense to me. Knowing that you're going to do maps that are shitty maps is not a fun gameplay to anyone. So I didn't like that part. So them removing that was a very good thing for me. But the way that they did it is what gets me in trouble with a lot of people, my opinion about it. The reason why is because I have massive respect for PoE1, and I think it's a great game, amazing game. And the reason why I played it, I think I've have like 150 hours, not even anything. But I did play it. The reason why I played it is so I can see what the potential of PoE2 might be.
Yes, dude.
Right? Because PoE2 is my main game. That's what I care about. And I'm probably going to play tomorrow PoE1 again because drops and stuff and it looks cool. And
Let's
Assassin
go.
is
Log
my.
in. I'll
Yeah,
be there
yeah.
with you on the
Yeah,
beach, brother.
again. Yeah, let's go. And PoE1 has my favorite class in all games, which is usually I'm a rogue main for like 20 years. So they do have Assassin, which is the closest thing to it. So definitely go on Assassin with the buffs and everything everyone's been telling me about. But I've played PoE1 so I can see what the future of PoE2 might hold. And when I see the PoE2 has constant updates from PoE1, I like it because it's good. But at the same time, I'm a little bit worried that I don't want PoE2 to become PoE1 with better graphics, if that makes sense. And sometimes it gets me in trouble because people don't mind that. I do mind it because if GGG only listens to PoE1 veterans, then in a year from now, we're going to be double the speed in PoE2, double the flashes, double the abilities. Everything is going to be zooming, and there's not going to be any point in slowing down and doing stuff the way the PoE2 is supposed to be. So my take on that is that what I would love to see, that's the only thing that I have, which is not 100% positive. The one thing that I would love to see from GGG moving forward would be more creativity when it comes down to changing stuff and mechanics for PoE 2. Like they know what works, but I need them to be a little bit more creative. Now, Jonathan and Mark said that they will start planning newer stuff for PoE 2 once the full release comes on, which that's why I'm absolutely fine with it. But for example, the towers, I really like the tower mechanic. I just didn't like the pathing. So take away the pathing and do something greater with the towers instead of just throwing the towers in the bin. And you know what I mean? So that's what I meant. That's where I'm standing. I don't know what your opinion about all of this is.
Oh, that makes sense. I totally hear you, and I think that like for me personally, I think that both games need to have their own identity. I don't want
Mm.
the games to be the same game as well. I think that I like the vision of PoE 2. I like the slower pace at the beginning. I like the progression curve. I like the lack of movement abilities, and then feeling that progression, as we talked about, increase over time. It just feels fucking good, man. And then I think,
Yeah, it does.
and then with regards to PoE 1, like I like, and I have way less hours than even you in PoE 1. I'm just getting into it. Like I think this league is going to be my first official league, like 3.27.
Mm.
But I
Let's
really
go.
like the end game, man. Like the end game, it's like what they said, what everyone says. The end game in PoE 1 is just so fleshed out, and so I applaud Jonathan and Mark and the GGG for trying stuff, for getting creative, for coming up with new systems like the Infinite Atlas and towers and all the and precursor tablets and stuff like that. Um, like that doesn't mean that they have to do it if it doesn't work, though. I think that there
Yeah.
has to be a fine line between like being innovative and trying stuff. I think that that is the only way to progress, and like innovate on your game, while also not being afraid to also like, if something's not working and they can't figure it out, like adapt what is a tried and true after 10 plus years of development in PoE 1 and then move from there.
Yeah.
One of the main things I would say would be the end game in PoE 2 right now. Like having the chance to just interact with the end game in PoE 1 over the last few days. I just got to like level 88 in hardcore solo
Right.
self-found in PoE 1 and just died in T15 maps last night. But I love
Wow.
the Atlas tree in PoE 1, man. It's like the fucking shit compared to PoE 2. Like it would be cool if they made the progression in PoE 2 a bit more like PoE 1. And what I mean by that is you get points by completing maps. So that would
Mm.
force you to explore the Atlas instead of just focusing on doing the maps that you want to, especially at the beginning, because that's how PoE1
Sure.
works, right? Like you have all of these different
Yeah.
layouts, you have to beat them all, you get your points. And this would allow PoE 2 to have a way bigger Atlas tree. You could customize it, getting more maps, getting more content that you're enjoying. And I think that's what it's really missing. And I've only been able to realize this, as you said, by going back and seeing PoE 1 and saying to
Yeah.
myself, how can this be applied to PoE 2 as well? Which has been cool.
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree. What I'm saying though is I don't want players to be like, oh, we have this problem in PoE 2. You know what the solution is? Just do what we have in PoE 1, man. It works. If they apply that another 10 times, we're just getting a better PoE 1. That's what PoE 2 is going to end up being. You know what I mean?
For sure.
I'm not all negative about seeing what works, what doesn't, taking it off and bringing something that works, but not like for absolutely everything. You understand what I mean? Because the one of the things that I remember is, okay, we need scarabs in the game. No, we don't need scarabs. Just find another solution to fix the problem. You don't need to just copy paste the same files from PoE 1 to PoE 2 just in a different version. That's all I'm saying.
100%.
That's the one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. Like so my hot take that I get shit on constantly by PoE 1 Andes is that I like the dodge roll. Like I'm sorry, I like dodge roll. Like I'm not saying that
Yeah.
dodge roll is better than Frostblink and Leap Slam, but like having the dodge roll as an intrinsic part of like movement in PoE 2 forces you to slow down and become more engaged. Like using that thing basically very deliberately to engage with mechanics like boss fights and stuff like that. And I just enjoy that. I enjoy that. I enjoy that you have that from level 1, that every single character has that option. I know a lot of people disagree with me. That's fine. But yeah, like I think that that is
I'm
a
with you, man.
it's a core part of PoE 2 that completely differentiates it from PoE 1, and I hope that that always stays within the game because that was one of the things that I got at the very beginning. One of the oh shit moments was like fighting the bloated miller in, the
And
riverbank,
then
and then you
you
gotta
dodge roll.
dodge, and if you don't dodge, you get hit by the big slammy and you get hurt real bad and you might die. And like that sets the stage for the entire game. Like that fight sets the stage
100%.
for every single fight that you have to do.
I
And
agree.
it's great.
What's your opinion about dodge roll that connects with a sprint that can get you killed though?
Yeah, so playing on hardcore, especially this league, I was very deliberate. Again, the whole game comes down to like, you have to be very intentional and deliberate with every movement and skill that you do because there are certain things that can get you killed. One of them being the movement of like dodge roll into sprint. Personally, I do believe that in 0.4 they will add a separate sprint button. I think that that needs to happen.
Hope so. Yeah,
I
it has
don't
to.
like how it's tied to the dodge roll. They need to be very much. They need to cut the umbilical cord on that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I'm a fan of sprint. I was initially skeptical about it at first, but I think that it's a great addition to the game because you can be deliberate on when you use it. I just think that yeah, it needs to get separated from dodge 100%.
I agree. I agree. Okay.
Yeah. So speaking of like deliberate stuff in the game, actually,
Hmm.
let's see. What else do we have here on the questions list? Also, I want to check in with you. We're at like an hour and 20 minutes. How are you doing
I'm
and how
good,
are you
bro.
feeling?
I'm good.
Yeah.
100%. We're feeling good.
Nice, dude. Okay, yeah, me too. While we're sort of in this checkup, I just want to say thank you for coming on, dude. It's been a blast having you and chatting with you. And yeah, we're gonna keep it going. One sec.
It's awesome. It's awesome being here, man.
Yeah, dude, it's so nice to just like chat about games, meet more of the community. It's I love it so much.
For sure.
Okay, so we talked quite a bit about the hot takes, sort of your,
Hmm.
stuff about the delirium fog campaign skip and stuff like that. There are a few other rapid fire questions that I have
Okay.
on the basically the game right now that we can talk about. So the first thing that was on my list was rarity on items. What are your
Ooh.
thoughts about it?
Rarity on items on our gear
Yes.
or maps?
Rarity on items on gear.
Uh, um, Listen, I'll be completely honest. I don't know if this is a hot take. I kind of liked, let me just rephrase. I liked the fact that there were so many content creators coming together, testing maps day in, day out to figure out what's the better rarity on items before diminishing returns. Having people like Farham and Crip and X the Farmer, myself, and anybody else who was just running hundreds of maps weekly to figure out what is good or what's bad. It's pretty fun to do. I don't think it's a big problem. However, here is where I want them to be creative. I think that rarity on items could stay in the game. I'm definitely not for taking it out the game, but maybe change the way that we get it. Forcing people to slap rarity on items on like 7 of their gear pieces and sacrifice damage or defense or whatever, and also tying that as the main way that you get currency from maps is insane to me, right? So I think there should be like a buff, something that you need to do, an achievement that you need to do that you get like 50%, like a buff, or 35%. Maybe you can bring like runes, like sockets that give you a little bit of rarity there. So at least you have that option. Then you have a couple of 15% here, 10% there, Atlas points maybe for the gear, whatever the case is. I think there are better ways to align that because if you think about it, I need to grind to get week 1, 2, 3, whatever, 50 plus divines so I can be able to get my build online to go and juice up maps, right? And that's not even considering the tech that we found, which is the tier 7 tech, right? So imagine you go to tier 15 maps and you want to get yourself decent loot. You need to start either looking for guides out there from people that have already done that or test it yourself. In order for you to test the most juiced up maps, you need to have a really good build. And having a really good build means probably you need to go meta. at some point, right? Like Deadeye Ranger or something like that that's going to clear them quickly, whatever the case is. But we're talking about 100+ divine build. And now I'm not even talking about rarity on items on that build. So then imagine how the newer player, the more casual player, the average player is going to feel when they go and watch a streamer and say, hey, I noticed that you're getting a tank every single map. How do you do it? Oh, I'm not doing something special. You just need to have 150% rarity on your gear. It's like, wait, what? How do I get that? Well, it's 10 here, 10 there, 20 here, 20 there. So that means that you need to take away resistances, damage, defense from all of your gear and just slap your rarity in there just so you can get 150 to see an extra tink. And if you think about it, is it actually worth it? Because if you do 100 maps and you get 30 divines, I mean, so it's either going to be tough to get, but it's going to be insanely rewarding, or it's going to be easier to get and it's going to be mediocre. So I go between these two. Like it cannot be as it is now. I think point 4 needs to bring a change to rarity on items.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny
What about you?
This ties back directly into our conversation about like making these games different, but also how things work well in PoE 1. And so this is a problem, as far as I understand, that was in PoE 1 as well, where there was a stat line that you could roll on gear called like quantity of items. And essentially that would act as a pseudo rarity in PoE 2. And so they've already encountered this in PoE 1, and they actually have removed quantity of items as a modifier from gear in PoE 1. And so it just seems interesting that they have to like try this out again in PoE 2 to see if it works, to then have to remove it again. And I think that like, yeah, someone is saying like, you know, maybe having rarity on the tree as sort of passive or like Atlas point investment possibly. But I think that at the baseline, rarity on gear, if it's going to be left, should work the same way that it has in Diablo 2 for 25 years. It should only affect unique items, better chances of finding rare and unique items, basically, not affect currency at all. I think that that would be the best fix, because I do like Scorpius having the choice to basically be like, especially in hardcore and at hardcore SSF, where those defensive layers and stats matter most, to be like, do I want to target farm items right now, or do I want to push content? And like, basically I can have gear that, you know, allows me to do either one of those things. I like giving players like the agency over what they do for their content, how they, you know, interact with their character. And so like, on paper, I like rarity. I just don't like how, you know, it's applying to currency. It's making people's builds only work if they're like hitting these specific milestones in terms of stats, like 150 rarity, as you said. And yeah, I just think that it really cripples the game in terms of like build craft, build viability, like all this stuff. So I think it's doing a lot more negative than positive at the moment.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. There's so many creative ways that they can put it into it, because even, but as you said, if they take that away from currency, then they also need to rethink their whole formula of their loot, because loot is non-existent for solo. Like it's if I play 100 hours a solo, I'm gonna get probably 1/10 of the loot that somebody's gonna play for half of the hours as group play in softcore and softcore trading league, right? So as solo, we need to have some kind of benefit. The harder the content is, the better the loot is, but actually it's better loot. You know what I mean? Giving me an ingenuity belt with like 13% on left and 13 on the right, it's like no motivator for anybody to try and kill, let's say, Zesht on tier 3 or Arbiter, Uber Arbiter or stuff like that if the loot is not there. Right. And just rarity of items. I think rarity of items has killed the motivation for a lot of people this league.
Yes, 100%. And it's an issue that we're discovering now because people are playing so much more, which is, I think, the silver lining here, because as we mentioned in Dawn of the Hunt and 0.2, we had a lot of people bounce like the first week or two because they just weren't enjoying the game. I'm of the same opinion as you. I played Dawn of the Hunt the whole way through, and you know, the game got really fucking good by the end of it. Like, they made a bunch of changes, a bunch of really good changes, which made people experience 0.3 even better as well. Because if you skipped Dawn of the Hunt and came back for 0.3, not only did you get the W's like crafting and sprinting and revised campaign from 0.3, but you got all of the loot changes from 0.2 as well. Sorry, a bit of a tangent about why I think 0.2 is also
Mm,
good too. But
yeah.
yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's like we're experiencing the rarity issue now because we're getting way more people actually playing a lot. People are pushing ladder like crazy on hardcore SSF, and like, yeah, this is just an issue that's coming to light because the game's actually in a way better state, which is, I guess, the silver
Yeah.
lining that I'm trying to say.
I see. Yeah. I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah. Okay. So I would be very curious to see what they do for rarity. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about was currently the defenses right now. So have you had a
Mm.
chance to play with red life, armor, and then have you had a chance to play with evasion and energy shield and deflect? What are sort of your thoughts on like the general state of the defensive layers right now?
Yeah. I think personally, I believe after so many builds that I've done in point one, two, and now three, and I'm not talking about hardcore SSF, by the way. You definitely know more than me there, but I'm talking about soft core, just in general, normal builds. Um, I think the state of defense is much better than it used to be, which is good. It's progress. Armor is definitely better than what it used to be. Evasion is not. They did double nerf it, if I remember correctly. I think it was a big nerf and then a small shadow nerf. They thought that we wouldn't see it. But the evasion has been nerfed a little bit, but then deflection has come there to help it get balanced. I still think energy shield is king. But I definitely believe as overall defenses are a lot better than what it used to be in point one and point two. And that's not considering support gems that we had or currently have. Because if you think about Energy Shield now versus when we had a Grim Feast, I mean, obviously, it's not as overpowered as Grim Feast, but again, Energy Shield is just insanely good. If you, on its own, pairing it with something else, it's really good. For example, the Spark Mage, the Blood Mage with just life regen, and just focusing only on that is a really good build. And I don't remember a single time that I died, probably, and that was just stacking life and life regen. That's about it, right? Then armor. My most successful run in hardcore SSF was pure armor, and then going with a warrior, which was my first one, and then going with the new mod of armor that covers elemental damage as well. I honestly think that I enjoyed that defense the most out of everything because it inspired me to go as high on the percentage as I can for every single resistance and double cap everything. It was super fun to play. And then evasion, I found it a little bit underwhelming, especially at league launch. Whenever I went with an unarmed monk, that was my main in the initial league starter, and I went for full evasion so I can try the deflection thing. And my personal opinion is that evasion doesn't come online until very much later. Like whenever you get your wind dancer, you get some energy shield going, you have deflection or like two, three gear pieces, and you have it on the passive tree. It was just I felt that evasion was non-existent until I get to something like 15,000 evasion rating. That's when it started. I was like, oh shit, I'm tanky now. But that's like well into the end game, right?
Hmm.
But overall, I think they're good. I think they're good. There's some improvement that could be made here and there, but it's okay.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that like right now the state of defenses is the best it ever has been.
Mm,
Um, like I also try every league since like 0.1 to like experience the various layers, and I look at defenses in PoE 2 and in PoE 1 as sort of they have to work in conjunction with each other. There's very few
right.
situations where you're just being like a pure evasion character or a pure armor character. Like especially as you're learning in hardcore SSF, like stacking defenses and layers is like, one of my favorite ways to play the game or like to think about like the game in hardcore SSF is like, how good is my armor with block chance and how good is my armor with, elemental damage absorbed by armor and how well does
Yep.
it feel in combination? Like that is super cool. I tried it on a mercenary. I did a Gemling Legionnaire with armor, elemental absorption and block, and I did shield wall and fortifying cry, and dude, that build was so fucking good, man. It felt so good.
Nice.
I got one shot in Trial of the Sechemas by like a paper plane icicle after you kill the two bosses, but up
Oh,
until that point, yeah, by the way, be careful in there on HCSSF, that shit
okay.
will one shot you.
Okay.
But up to that point, I was like,
Good to know.
yeah, I didn't. It was a knowledge check. A lot of people were telling me, "How
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fuck did you not know about this?" Blah blah blah. I'm like, I just never
Okay.
got hit. But yeah, like it was nice to play through on armor, and I honestly think, dude, it's the best way to go through the campaign. Like you feel the most cozy with that if you have decent resistances and a shield on. Like, dude, Queen of Filth, who's like notorious for killing energy shield and evasion characters,
Oh yeah.
will just like she doesn't fuck you up, which is nice. Yeah, it's great.
True.
The one thing though that I wanted to ask you is like, how do you feel about life scaling?
Um. Again, the only real experience that I have with life scaling and life stacking was with the Spark Mage. The like, yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's okay. It used to be better, I believe, before because we had a lot of life stacking builds and coming again. I don't have a lot of experience in hardcore when it comes down to that. That's why I don't really have an opinion about it because in softcore, anything that has to do with stacking means that it's super expensive. It doesn't matter
Mm,
what it is. Like the Spark Blood Mage, the reason why it's insanely expensive is because it's life stacking and you need like crazy jewels and crazy uniques and stuff like that. But the scale, like I always go for, maybe you can give me a tip or two, but I always, whenever I see strength in hardcore, I always pick it up because I know it's going to be like a multiplier. It's going to be one strength is 2 life, so it's going to give me more life for my character, which is good. So whenever I see maximum life or anything like that, when it comes down to life, and so far I've been okay. But whenever I did a build with evasion and a little bit of energy shield, and I didn't really care about life, I felt squishier if I'm not going armor. So
$100%.
I don't know. Yeah.
No, no, I totally feel you on that, man. Like the reason why I ask is because again, going back to PoE1 and seeing how
Mm.
much investment you can put into life on the tree, it makes me kind of feel like that sole that thing that we're missing is the sole reason why I think playing life just feels a little bit worse. I think energy shield obviously is king because there's a lot of ways that you can like build on energy shield with investment on the passive tree, whereas with life it literally just comes down to, as you said, maybe a few different like 3% increased life nodes on the passive tree. But it's gear. Like gear is the way that you
Oh
get
yeah,
basically
yeah,
get
yeah.
your life essentially. And like obviously, if you're going like strength nodes on the passive tree, you're getting a little bit of like
Sure.
life passively as well. But it
Yeah.
just feels a
Now,
bit weird that we don't have the ability to invest in life on the tree. Is kind of
oh,
my thought.
100% agree. Yeah, yeah. Now I understand that you're asking me based on the tree. 100% it needs to be in there for
Yeah.
sure. Like the fact that we have like multiple different passive points with armor and evasion, and then armor on its own, and then evasion on its own. Like things like cat-like agility that gives you movement speed and dex and evasion. So many good nodes for everything else but life. So 100% I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that has been like an issue that players have had since 0.1 and they haven't iterated on it yet, and I do think they might be waiting for a class to sort of fill out that I should use this hand for this, fill
Maybe.
out this side of the tree here because the strength intelligence sort of side is kind of missing, where we would find the
Yeah.
Templar and the Druid stuff. So maybe they're
Hmm.
waiting for that. So my copium or hopium would be like when they release that in 0.4, hopefully a new class that they flesh out some of that tree, and then there's some investment for life on there as well. I do think that there should be life on the ranger side of the tree as well, especially if you're going like evasion with a bit of energy shield. Like life is still very valuable. But yeah, at this moment in time, I think that's what we're missing right now in terms of defenses is just more layers, more ways to scale. Like it feels bad when you pick up a global defenses buff in the campaign or, getting that on your amulet with the perfect essence. And that doesn't increase your health, dude. It's just like, how is health not classified as a defense? Like that is the line.
True.
That is the
Yeah.
biggest line of defense that we got is our hit points. If we don't have any, we're dead. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Definitely.
an issue that I have with it for sure.
Definitely agree with that.
Okay, another thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and this is kind of
Mm.
a topic of discussion that maybe is a bit controversial, but I wanted to ask you, like, how would you define a casual player versus somebody who is, I guess, like a not a casual player? And the reason why I ask this is because
Mm.
the point of PoE 2 from to my understanding, is to make the game more approachable for casual players while
Hmm.
also having the depth of mechanics and like the depth of understanding and systems that attracts hardcore
Yeah.
players as well. So I wanted to ask
Hmm.
you sort of your thoughts about that.
Oh, 100% I agree. And this is one of my base um, within my recipe of content creation. This is my base. The content, if you go and watch my guides, the way that I speak for, I would say anybody who has experience with PoE2 and is a really, really good player, min-maxer, god crafter, they're not going to watch my videos. The reason why is because I talk slow. I literally explain absolutely everything to the T, like as if nobody knows. You know what I mean? So my content, the way that I create the content is thinking that I'm a casual player and I want to click on this one video and I wanted to explain exactly what I'm looking for. So I definitely believe that the game should keep on trying its best to appeal to casual players because that's how you're gonna attract more and more and more people. Because the more people you attract before your initial release, the better. Because initial releases will always perform amazing, but the whole point is how are you going to maintain those players afterwards? Are those players going to invite their friends? Are their friends going to have an easy time understanding stuff? So, for example, a question is why do we not have a better tutorial in the beginning? Why don't you increase the drop chance of things like augmentation orbs, transmutation orbs, regal orbs? Help people craft, explain what crafting is. What's the point of that? Why disenchant? Why not disenchant? If I didn't have people that know PoE1 when I started PoE2, I would be confused as hell. Like I wouldn't know what I'm doing. Why would I disenchant this? I'm gonna sell it for gold. No, but if you do that, you're gonna get these shards, and these shards are converted. Who says so? You know what I mean? Like I would never know. So I think tutorials are very important for any game to invest in, for sure. And regarding the difficulty in general, I think that the game should consider all three of the player bases. I think there are casual players that would just want easier content because, and how you asked me, how do you define a casual player? I believe a casual player is somebody that casually plays the game. Obviously, like you don't have so many hours within the week to play the game. So let's say 2 hours on a Monday, 2 hours on a Thursday, and another three on a Sunday. That, in my eyes, is a casual player, and casual players should not try and catch up or compete with content creators or guide creators or anything like that because we literally spend like 10, 12, 13, 14, some people even more hours a day playing this game, right? So a casual player should have a beautiful experience. The casual player should be as excited for the game as somebody like you and I who are going to the end game and we're reaching the goals that we have set for ourselves and we get that reward that we want. If that's juicing maps and getting divines, or it's reaching hardcore at whatever level 100, whatever the case is, right? So in order for a casual to enjoy the game fully, you need to give them a game that takes them by their hand, but not through everything. Just give them like a good tutorial and then consider that they're good to go. Like give them the benefit of the doubt. You don't need to, pinpoint every single thing. People are not dumb. We're gamers. We get it. We adapt. We're fine. But a mini tutorial in the beginning is going to invite even more people coming from all over the industry, like different games and stuff. And also the difficulty should be there as an easy mode for them to get that achievement. And I think they're doing pretty nicely right now with Zesht and King of the Mist and all that stuff having tier 1, where casuals can go and fight tier 1. But again, casuals are going to want to progress to tier 2, and they can do that beautifully. And Arbiter now is super easy to kill. And then you have Uber Arbiter for everybody else that wants a little bit harder. But then you have a third category of players that have nothing to do, which are the min-maxers and the people that just play, let's say, one character for the entirety of the league. And Uber Arbiter is like one shot again for them. You know what I mean? So there is a little bit of On one corner, I need them to create a tutorial for people and help people and casuals have fun. And on the other side, they need to create like an Uber times 10 something that's going to be an ultimate goal for the other end. So that's my opinion about it.
I love that.
What about you?
I think that's
Yep.
great, man. I totally agree. I think that like you're absolutely right. There is a spectrum, and that's kind of like the basis for the creation of this game. Is like we want, or that not we, but GGG wants the game to be more approachable, more understandable, more easy to get into, especially with like less content than PoE 1. And I think it does a good job in some areas, like the video description of skills and like the kind of the I think the riverbank tutorial is a great start. I think that it like I agree with you in the sense that I don't want a game that just holds your hand all the way to maps. Obviously that would be terrible. I like, that GGG's games, treat players like the smart people they are and don't treat people like dumb babies. Like that's just not, what I want from the game. But I do think that they could further explain things. And I think that that is something that they definitely struggle with in PoE 1 for sure, and I don't want that to be the same fate that PoE 2 has as well. I think you're absolutely hit the nail on the head with crafting. I think that like, and then Jonathan and Mark have talked about how there is going to be a tutorial about like, you find a transmute, you got to use it, like and all that kind of stuff. And so I do hope that in the future the game doesn't feel handholdy, but there is a sort of improvement on like just the general like explanation of things within the game. Like I think a lot of people can agree that like crafting is probably the most confusing thing. Like I've had to watch various videos about how to use, Path of Exile and PoE 2 DB to understand like the weighting of modifiers and etc. What even is a prefix and a suffix? Like if you ask a new player, like, oh, like what prefixes do you have on your items? They're gonna be like, what the fuck is a prefix? Like,
Exactly.
something to explain the general thing about that would be great. And it's tough because as people have mentioned in the chat, like a lot of people don't read, especially in these types of games. And so the way around that is like forcing people to have to do stuff, which also kind of feels bad sometimes. So it is just a tough challenge to overcome where it's like, we don't want to slow down the experience by making people have to read or force people to do all this shit. But if we don't do that, how are they actually going to learn? It's like a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah, I do agree with that, but I disagree that it's a bad thing, to be completely honest, because you can literally just take 10, 15 minutes from the early stages of the campaign to show the 3, 4 pointers that you need people to know. Now, if people skip that and they don't do that, is there a problem? But I mean, force it in the campaign. Let them, like, if you force it in the campaign, you and I are going to skip it because we know stuff. But your friend who's brand new is going to be, oh, what is this? Wait, crafting. He mentioned something about crafting. Let me read. And then GGG is like, okay, so crafting is very important. Here's an item. This is a base. It's white. You have blue and you have rare. Like, treat them like babies for 3, 4 of the most important things in the game for like 10 minutes of the campaign. And that's basically it. Why I believe this is super important? We don't believe that it's important right now because it's the beginning of PoE 2. In 6 years, whoever stays in PoE 2 and we're still playing, this is going to be crucial to if the game is going to be getting new players or not. Because every expansion now, every single league that's been coming out, 0.2, 0.3, now 0.4, PoE 2 is becoming more and more and more complex. So the more complex it becomes, the less motivated new people will be when they come in. So at what point are we going to discuss tutorial to bring new people in and force them to have fun and understand the basics? You know what I mean? Which is also another reason why I don't think the stats of PoE 1 were that great before PoE 2 when it comes down to new player, like maintaining new players and having new players coming into PoE 1. It's almost always the vets that are going to be playing the game. And now PoE 1 is getting new players because of PoE 2. So what's going to happen to new players in PoE 2 in 5 years from now when we have like another, I don't know, 35 different expansions and leagues? Imagine how much more, like how many classes we're going to have in 5 years, atlas trees, endgame, bosses, mechanics. It will be insane. So we're going to have the exact same thing, like you said, with PoE 1 if they don't think about a solution from now.
Then it's
Because
time
if
to
they
make
do
PoE
something
3,
now,
baby. No, I'm
yeah,
just kidding. I'm just
yeah,
kidding. I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah. But if they create something now and they get into the habit of that and they see a good reception from people, especially on launch, whenever you're going to attract names like Asmongold, for example, and his community is going to come in, that's going to be a huge influx of players, new players. You need those new players to lock in, right? So that's my opinion about it.
100%, dude. I think that like if they get the infrastructure, we'll call it, the roads, the public
Yeah.
transit, the electricity, the hydro, all put in place right now to support those new players, to support the casual players. They like yeah, we have to like, plan this game out to, be better than PoE 1 for the next like 10 years, or be better than what they did in PoE 1 for the next 10 years. And we kind
Agreed.
of talked about this before with how much better the campaign is. Now we just need them to bring up that level of not hand-holdy, but just explanation in the campaign as well. And I'm pretty confident they're going to do it because they've talked about that before. Like one of the other things that I think I even really struggle with in PoE 1, or sorry, not in PoE 2, is the rune system now. And I don't know if
Hmm.
you've been dealing with this on your side of things, but in 0.1 and 0.2, runes I think were a lot more prevalent, and it made it a little bit easier to like swap out things and adjust our resistances, which is something that PoE 1 does very well with the crafting bench. But in
Hmm.
0.3, for some reason, like runes just don't drop very much in the campaign. And I felt like I was like down atrociously uh to like get runes. Iron runes are basically finding a divine orb. Um
Yeah.
and the runes that I
Yeah.
were finding were like stat point runes, or the mana leech and health leech runes. Like they weren't the ones that were important. They weren't the resistances and the damage.
Oh yeah.
Those are the ones you want. And so what did you feel about like how do you feel about the campaign in terms of like runes? What's your thoughts on it?
Yeah. So just so I can go to my thought, just to explain that if you're only playing softcore trading league, you honestly don't notice these small little things. Like it's not until I actually played hardcore SSF, my first run, then my second and my third, I confirmed it. I never thought that we have a problem with augmentation orbs in the first couple of levels. I never thought that regal orbs are like this mysterious currency that doesn't exist, and I need to disenchant absolutely everything to create 10 shards to convert them into a regal so I can use crafting. Like I remember I had like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items blue just stand like in my stash waiting for me to convert them with a like hit them with a regal to see what I'm gonna get. So I noticed that, and yes, I noticed the runes as well. I think we have far too many runes and far less runes being important. So you're looking for like 3, 4 different things, and you have like 20 different options, and they're not dropping, like you said. So yeah, I definitely noticed that as well, and a few other things that I haven't noticed in softcore, and I'm now noticing in hardcore SSF. I was like, where is this? What is happening? Why am I getting a divine? I literally got a divine orb and 2 annulment orbs in Act 3. And I had 1 regal orb in my stash. I was like, what is happening? And people are like, you need to stop crafting. No, what do you mean stop crafting? It's SSF. I want to craft as much as I possibly can. You know what I mean? That's the whole point of this. So I'm not saying increase the drop rate in SSF. That's not what I'm saying, because that's not. Actually, I wanted to ask you, what's your opinion about that? Like somebody who's playing hardcore SSF, I keep getting this question and I always answer in the same way. I don't think SSF or hardcore should have anything changed with its difficulty or loot drop, because then it's gonna scuff the whole thing. It's not gonna be as difficult as it is now. What's your opinion about that?
That's a great question. I do want to follow up on your last point just about runes, just briefly
Mm,
before I answer that. I think what
yeah,
has happened with runes is that with the addition of the lowering of required attribute points, um,
yeah,
it's made the runes that give you attribute points basically irrelevant now. And though the addition of those runes were actually put in place in 0.2 to help fix the really high requirement of attribute points for skills, for gear, and all that shit. So having higher attribute
Hmm.
points was actually more important in 0.2 and in 0.1. But now that
Yep.
like it's less, for some reason they just didn't adjust the priority in which these things are dropping now. They need to like either get rid of them, because I find myself very rarely in hardcore SSF even using like a 10 strength or a, there are occasions where you may be swapping around gear and like it's a last resort. But yeah, like the frequency at which I see those versus
Yeah.
the actual good runes is just, it needs to be rebalanced because of the change that they made to attribute points, which was a great change, by the way. Like it feels good to not be so locked into having these super high attribute point requirements for skill gems and armor and stuff. And then
Agreed.
before I answer that question, I do want to give a special shout out to some people here. So some guy on YouTube
Yep.
named Jag just left me my biggest tip of $20. So thank you very much, Jag, for the $20 tip. That is very nice. And then Prince of Persia for the tier 1 sub. Thank you so much for that as well. My boy Kevin F, big supporter. Yeah, so essentially the question was drop rates. So it's a double-edged sword as well, and I use that phrase a lot because there are other games who do things differently that I do enjoy. Another one that comes up frequently is Last Epoch. So I don't know if you've played Last
Hmm.
Epoch before, but they have an SSF and a trade league, very much like PoE does. But if you choose to go the SSF route, it's called I think it's called like the League of Fortune, I think it is, where
Okay.
or maybe that's the trade league. I can't remember what it's called, but essentially when you select SSF, you get a buff basically to your drops to help like subsidize the lack of like trade. And I'm not gonna lie, dude, it feels really fucking good. I know that you pick. Okay, it is Circle of Fortune. Nice. So I know that when you pick SSF in PoE in PoE 2, it is a self-imposed challenge, and I like that challenge. I like having to engage with everything myself to craft
Yeah.
items to make everything work in harmony like the game is supposed to feel. Would I be against having some sort of like buff to that? I don't know. I feel like if it was in the game, it'd feel nice. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, for sure. But the what I asked is opposing to softcore. Let's say, would you want only hardcore SSF buffed versus not having that buff in softcore? That's what usually people ask me. Like whenever,
Oh, okay.
because there's more and more people now that I'm playing hardcore SSF that are trying hardcore SSF with me with the challenges, right? So they all come in and say, "Hey, I've never played this before. I want to try it, but is the loot better considering the challenge?" I was like, "No, it's the exact same thing that we have in softcore,
Mhm.
which is what makes it a challenge to begin with,
Yeah.
right?"
No, I hear you. Yeah, it's tough to say because I played SSF for so long and I've seen the progression of how hard it was before. Like it was, dude. I know you didn't try it in 0.1, but like, bro, it was so fucking bad. Like it was insanely hard to progress in SSF. Like in
Right.
0.3, it feels like Circle of Fortune and Last Epoch because we have better drops. We have crafting
Okay.
now. Like it's just insanely easier to play SSF versus before. And it's still hard. But yeah,
Yeah.
so for me, it's hard to be like buff it more because like for me, my experience has been we've gotten to this point now where it feels very much so like on the table, like people are eating good in SSF with, Abyssal League, with the new reworks
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Omens and stuff like that. And so I'm very much happy with how it feels at this current state. I feel like having it buffed even more would be maybe a little bit too easy, honestly. And I don't want that. I never want the game to feel too easy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
What about you?
No, I agree. I just don't agree with the fact that it's almost impossible to get like the basic crafting materials in the beginning. And again, I only noticed that when I started playing SSF
Yeah.
because the whole point of hardcore SSF is A, don't die. B, craft everything yourself and try and find everything that there is to find. There's nothing else. Nobody else can help you apart from yourself. So how am I going to progress if I'm finding one or two regal every, I don't know, 6, 7 maps? You know what I mean? Like there's so many
100%.
items. Yeah. So it's either regal or essence I'm going to hit them with for the conversion to rare, but neither is dropping to the rate that I need to craft. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I
That's it.
hear you. And like, yeah, I'm so happy you brought up essences because that's another thing that has improved SSF substantially that came in
Mm,
0.3. Like essences were so fucking dog shit before 0.3.
yeah.
And now they're actually amazing. But yeah, I think that two things would fix SSF. One of those things is something that we've talked about on the podcast a lot would be a reworked rune crafting system. So get Renly to make you blank runes and have the choice of basically cutting whatever rune you want. And so that
Ooh.
way you could have way more agency over like, yo, I need this is, the runes are supposed to be a pseudo crafting bench. And so not being able to actually decide on what runes we have at the right moment kind of negate on that a little bit. And so that would be great. And then just readjusting maybe the drop rates of certain things in the early
Yeah.
campaign would be two things
That's a
that
good idea,
would be
actually.
great. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we have
That's a
that
great
system
idea,
in
actually.
play, Scorpius. Like, you go to the Ogum village, you find that first rune with the blacksmithing tools, and he gives you that blank rune, right? And so either
Sure.
allow that to exist all the way into maps because it does just help out a lot, or give us rune shards. Like imagine if you like broke down a piece of gear with runes in it, it would give you like, rune shards the same way you get regal shards and all that kind of stuff. And then you chunk those together and you can cut whatever rune you want. I think that would be awesome. I know you
Mm.
don't want more rune shards, but dude, it's like another thing that they could do. You know what I mean? I'm reacting to
Yeah.
chat here, but
No. It's exactly what we were saying before. There is a way that they could do it. They just need to be creative to do it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
We just need something there to be done.
100%. And yes, I know that's sort
Yeah.
of like their draw card, like that their easy drawback card is like, oh, we'll just make that into shards. You have shards for pinnacle bosses, you have shards for currencies, shards everywhere, shards for everybody.
Yeah.
But
True.
they can come up with something better. You're absolutely right. They're creative.
Definitely.
Okay, so as we wrap up our Path of Exile 2 discussion, I just wanted to ask you if you could see one big change. Let's just say patch 0.4 is one change and that's it. What is the end all be all for Scorpius that will make the game in a way better state? This is a tough one, by the way. Yeah, but one change.
One change
Yeah.
is tough, man.
Yeah.
I thought that you're gonna ask me what are the changes you want to see. One change.
Okay, two or three.
Okay, so the main one, I would say, endgame.
Yeah.
Needs adjustment for sure. We need a little bit more to do in different ways to do them. So I would say endgame is one, but I don't know if this is a hot take or not. I don't care about a new class just yet. Like I know that people are going to be, no, we want the druid. It's been like, sure, and I want the shadow and the assassin, right? I want a class as well. But hold up, we have some issues that need to be prioritized. Like I don't see why we're postponing them. So in point 4, if there's one big thing or two big things that I would like to see, it's performance. I would love to see insane changes in performance to the point that nobody has any issues for any reasons apart from their own systems. If somebody's playing on the toaster, sure, they're going to crash, but nothing server-wise, no FPS issues, none of that. So they need a huge improvement in performance, and then everything else comes in play, in my opinion. But something I would love to see, so let's say performance is out of the way and they fix all of that. As I said, I think campaign, they're absolutely nailing it. I haven't had... Bro, Act 4 is so fun. Act 4 is insanely fun. I absolutely love Act 4. So I'm going to miss the interludes, and I think a lot of people are going to miss the interludes. I am super excited for Act 5. I know that they're going to nail it, and that's going to be there. So I don't think I'm expecting a lot from the campaign, so that's good. But yeah, I think Endgame needs a massive change as well, and adjustment in general.
Yeah, no,
That's my
I hear you. Performance and optimization was the thing that I have said is so important, especially coming again from PoE 1, where like you're playing and you're blasting and it just feels so smooth like all the time. And yeah, I think that they've been very like upfront with like the fact that the end game changes are coming in 0.4, which is incredibly exciting. I hope that they innovate while also, adjusting things based on what works in the past as well. But I hear you,
Yeah,
man. I really want the game to run well. It's wild because my computer's not shit. Like it's not a toaster. It's not like a $5,000
sure.
PC as well. It's like kind of a upper mid range computer, and it doesn't struggle with any game. But for some reason, it struggles when I'm like in an abyssal overrun map, and there's also a breach in there, and I'm like 5 frames per second, and it feels
Yeah,
scary, especially playing on hardcore. Like having performance issues based on just the game itself and not your own setup, it like just feels bad. And yeah, so I guess that would be
exactly.
my thing as well. I think I agree with you there. Performance and optimization is like first and foremost. I think they need to get that locked in because the campaign feels so well optimized and it performs so well, and then you're dropped into the end game and like it's just a very harsh transition, right? I'm sure a lot of people
True.
felt that.
100%. And what's worse about that is people, their first instinct is never to blame the game. They always think it's their system. So they check their internet provider, that's not it. They're checking their system, that's not it. Their updates, that's not it. They're trying to figure out their shader cache folders and delete this, uninstall the game, do all of these things to play a game. And then you figure out that everybody else is having the same issue. So it's just the game. So it feels bad, you know what I mean, and it shouldn't be that way. So
Yeah.
there are a lot of things that they could do, and I'm pretty sure that they're thinking about it. Obviously, they're listening to the players. They've showed it time and time again. So I do know that it's a priority thing of theirs. I just want to see it sooner rather than later. Because another thing that I wanted to say, I don't know if you can agree with this, but I think the card that we're all playing, especially the ones like us and a lot of other people that are super positive about PoE2, the card that we're all playing, that it's, yo, chill, it's still early access and all that, I think that is about to expire very soon because we're already almost a year in. You know what I mean? There are some things that should have been fixed, if you ask me. You know what I mean? So, yeah, what do you think about that?
Oh, that's a good question, man. Yeah, it's tough because you don't want that to be like the be all end all fall back on card when like you're trying to
Mm,
rationalize why things don't get fixed. Like if there's an issue that's present for a year in an early access game, I don't think that's acceptable. Despite it even being in early access, I still feel like, you know, and it's tough because I love GGG and I love what they're doing and I love their work and I love their game.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, like if there are things that exist for 12 months, 365 days a year, like yeah, it needs to be improved. You know what I mean? Like, and again, I will say, and I have said this on this particular podcast, this early access game makes most early access games feel bad in comparison. I've
Oh
never
yeah,
put in
100%.
this many hours into an early access game. And I've played a lot of them, Scorpius. I don't know if you have played a lot of early access games, but like I've tried a bunch of them and like some don't go out of early access. I'm very confident this one will. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I agree with you, man. I definitely agree with you there. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so I have like two more questions as we sort of end
Okay.
off here. They're kind of more on the generic side of things. I like to do this just so sort of like a wind down period. So don't want to take up too much of your time. I know we've been going for longer than we normally do, but it's been an awesome chat and I'm having a blast doing it. So
Same.
awesome, man. Okay, so one thing that I love to ask content creators, and this is sort of a
Mm.
personal thing for me because I like to learn about this, but also I know the viewers do as well, is about balance. Okay, so
Okay.
balance is a super important thing in all aspects of life, whether you're a content creator, a streamer, just like a gamer, whatever. And so I wanted to ask you, how do you find your own personal balance doing content, managing your own life's responsibilities, and everything in between?
It is a tough question, and the answer is also tough. It's tough to keep a balance. It's personally how I do it. I'm not going to try and go philosophical about the general public. I'm just going to tell you how I do things. Personally, I have the right person next to me, which is my fiance. So we're a team. She's also a professional musician. I play music as well. So we're trying to find a balance to do things that we love as well outside of this. But as somebody who has recently gone back to doing this full time, it's quite difficult to keep a balance due to the fact that obviously if you're full time you have the stress of you're being your own boss. So how many hours is good hours? Are you doing okay? Is this going to be sustained and all that stuff? So the balance oftentimes fades when you're only thinking about how am I gonna succeed in this and make sure that I have this as a stable thing, because that's what I love to do. Like, I'm not doing this for money, but unfortunately we need that in order for us to survive. You know what I mean? So it's unfortunate. So um, personally, I have the right people next to me, and whenever I have the opportunity to see friends and go out and do other stuff that are not related to this, and just chill, multiple small little vacations to, in the country, just go out and about in a different city and stuff like that, and try and be off technology, healthy diet, gym every single day. Things like that are what keep my mental state as stable as possible. And as I said, I'm not a very balanced person. I'm a very, if I want to do something, I'm going to go 100% in. I cannot half-ass something. And especially if this something is my creation and it's my full-time thing, right? So yeah, the way that I do it is just find things that I enjoy outside of this and try my best to remember that this is just, it is just a part of my life. It's not my whole life. And then share the rest of it with the people that I choose. That's how I keep balance. I don't know if this is it's a philosophical answer, but yeah, you can never be prepared to answer that question. You know what I mean? So that's how I keep balance, man.
That is a great answer, dude. I love that. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. It's something that we're all working on in our own way, in our own level of degree. Some people have it more figured out than others, but I think you kind of you broke it down in a really like great way where it's kind of like I really liked what you said, where this is a part of my life. This isn't all my life. And it feels like it is all of your life to some degree sometimes, especially because of how entrepreneurial it is and how you essentially
Yeah.
like as an entrepreneur, you have to put in so much more work than like the 40 hours a week that people do on the 9 to 5s to see
Oh yeah.
results, to see gain, to see traction and stuff like that. And you're always thinking like, what should I should be doing more. I should be editing that video. I should be writing that script. I should be working on that Mobalytics build guide, whatever. And like,
Oh yeah.
and so, yeah, those thoughts can be very overwhelming sometimes. And I think that you've, demonstrated pretty well in your answer that like you've worked on, through, doing other things. It helps you find sort of a way around that, which is awesome.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. Okay. So, and one other kind of question, and this is a tough one too, but we're gonna put you to the test today, Scorpius.
Okay.
What do video games mean to you, and how have they impacted your life? You can talk about that in a positive or a negative light, or both. Give me the scoop.
Oh man, these questions, dude. Um, I think I briefly mentioned something at the very start of the podcast that the majority of us are playing games to escape reality, or the majority of people, right? It doesn't matter if we love the game, we like it, we're good at it, whatever. It's just taking off everything else, like the stress load or whatever you're going through in life. You just go into the game and you just discover a different reality. You can be a different person. You can talk to people in a different way, all of that stuff. So that's how I figured out that that's the power of gaming very early on. Maybe not the Game Boy stage, but maybe later on with WoW mostly, or Age of Empire and stuff like that. Whenever I started playing, my brain shut off one side and activated another side, and I started being smarter than before. I started not caring about how I'm going to speak to people and what people are going to think about me and what's happening in life and all that stuff. I only cared about how I'm going to defeat this boss, how I'm going to be the best version of a rogue, what I'm going to do here to outperform somebody else. So it was, and then when you finish that session, you're like, holy shit, that was so good. That felt good. Like now I'm back to this, you know what I mean? And this being reality. So for me, video games, what it means is an escape from reality, but also when you mature and I grew up, for example, when I matured and I grew up, I found a way to bring it into my reality and add into it because there's beauty in both ways, right? So especially for us right now that we're trying to do this full time, this is what we want to do. I mean, how awesome is that, bro? You're playing your favorite game or games, and that's your career in a way. You know what I mean? It's so satisfying, right? And just finding more ways to adapt in that and meeting more people through these communities and these games is is life changing, man. Because you can find so many cool people in events or whatever. Like I'm gonna get married soon, and I've invited like 4 or 5 of my mods that I've known for like 2.5, 3 years from the gaming community. You know what I mean? So it's just life changing, man. It's insane. That's it. How about yourself, by the way?
I
I want
love
you to
that,
answer
dude.
this question as well.
I love that, dude. I've actually gone to 2 weddings from video games. I went to my second wedding from my boy, who I've been playing like Counter Strike with since like before COVID,
Nice.
and that was a month ago. And man, yeah, I hear you. The journey for video games for me has very much been uh, escape as well. When I was a kid, I didn't have a amazing childhood. I had a good one. I always was, I had a roof over my head, and I had video games and stuff like that. But there were rocky moments in my life, and I don't want to go too
Yeah.
in off topic on that. But video games were there to sort of help me get through those moments, and then it sort of transformed into this way of community, of social interaction, of meeting new people. And I think that that's been one of my favorite parts about gaming, and what's meant the most to me is like forming these relationships. Like even today, as a perfect example, or this podcast in general, like being able to sit down with you, we've never hung out or spoke before IRL,
Yeah.
and have a kick-ass conversation about video games and life. It is life changing, and it's a really, like, honestly, really unique thing to games, because I think games are like the glue for so many people to bring them together. And regardless of where you're from, what your background is, what your personal interests are, like, there are a bunch of people in the community. I don't know what they do, where they are, or whatever, but like
Mm.
they play games that I like to play, and that like brings us together. And like there's
Sure.
we need more shit like that in the world, bro. Where like people like
Definitely.
get brought
Yeah.
together just from something that like transcends borders, cultures, all that shit. So it is a
Agreed.
fucking dope thing. Yeah, and so yeah, I appreciate you coming on today. Wanted to ask you if you have any advice for content creators, new people coming onto the scene that want to start streaming, making YouTube. How would you guide them on their content creator journey, just getting started?
Oh, that's a good question as well. Um, just keep going. Start. Basically, number one is just start. Stop thinking about it. Just get on with it. Be consistent and be yourself. You don't need to mimic anyone. You don't need to copy anyone. You just need to be authentic. Be yourself. Don't try shortcuts and shit like that. If you have the opportunity, good. But yeah, just keep going, man. Just keep going. If it's important enough, you're gonna put in the hours. You're gonna put in the love, the passion, and it's gonna show. And that's basically it. That's my advice. I don't have the secret sauce either. And but yeah, that's basically it.
I love it. All right, man. Well, we've come to the end of this episode. At this point in time, I would love for you to just shout yourself out. And where can we find you, on what channels, and what will you be working on in the future?
Okay, great. Yeah, you can find me here on Twitch, Scorpius underscore ENT over on Twitch, and then just Scorpius. The handle is at Scorpius Official over on the YouTubes. What I'm currently working on is another challenge on Hardcore SSF, which is we randomly picked the mercenary, randomly picked an ascendancy tactician. We're not allowed to skip any bosses, no over levels, and we need to finish tier 1 maps, I believe. So I'm going to try and push that as far as I possibly can. However, tomorrow, for the first time in a very long time, I might actually dabble into PoE 1 a little bit as well. But yeah, I'm forever gonna keep going with PoE 2 for now. So that's gonna be my main game. So expect a lot of PoE 2 content mostly. But yeah, that's about it.
Amazing. As always, guys, I will make sure to leave a link to Scorpius's YouTube channel for awesome build guides, educational stuff on there, and then tune into his Twitch streams where he'll be doing HCSSF. It's been a good time watching that. Thank you so much for watching and listening today, guys, on this stream. If you listened on Twitch or on YouTube, I appreciate you guys, and we will see you in the next one. Peace out, y'all. All right, everybody, that wraps it up for this episode of the Passive Tree Podcast. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe for more PoE2 content. I have a bunch more episodes of the podcast lined up with some really great guests, so keep your eyes peeled for that. If you're interested in supporting the podcast and the channel, consider supporting through Patreon. There's a link in the video description. A special shout out to Kevin F. for supporting this channel. I appreciate you. Thank you. And until next time, happy blasting, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.